Commander Comstock, welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having me back.
I'm excited to talk to you again, man. Fellow Floridian, but you're also all over globe-trotting as well, in all kinds of places. But for people that aren't familiar, just give yourself a quick background rundown of your history and all that so people know.
All right. I was a former U.S. military. Spent 10 years in the Delta Force operator. I was a Green Beret, light and heavy weapons expert. I was a paratrooper. Right when 9/11 happened, I retired. I ended up working for OGA for almost 10 years doing the same thing. And then concurrently built several companies in parallel while I was doing that, sold those companies. And long story short, I ended up in Hollywood circa 2011, making movies. Didn't pursue that, just happened by chance. And then I did that for a few years, realized that being in Hollywood is not it's not my shtick. And it was fun, but different culture, right? So I ended up from there moving to Hong Kong, and I worked over there helping to protect a multi-billionaire investment banker. And so I lived in Hong Kong, and then that's where I met my wife, who's out in the studio right now. She's from Indonesia, and that was almost 11 years ago. I can't even believe time's gone by so fast. But anyway, she went back to Indonesia. I did what guys do, right? I followed her in Indonesia and started hanging out with her in Jakarta. And long story short, we started a company. We now have 3 companies down in Bali, and that's where we live, is in Bali. That's one of the places we live. We also live here in Panama City Beach, Florida. So that's a general overview of who I am, what I've done, where I'm traveling.
What's the deal with this fatwa? You had like some crazy hit on you?
Yeah. I don't know why. I thought we talked about it last time.
And this is recent.
Yeah. So May of 2024, I get actually my roommate, I have a roommate in Florida, in my apartment there. He said, "Hey man, the FBI is here looking for you." And they left a business card. I said, "Well, do you know what they want?" He goes, "No." He said, "I'd try to call them as soon as you get a chance." And at this time I was in the Philippines. And so with the time change, I'm like thinking, Jesus Christ, what did it's daytime there, nighttime here. So I got to wait till the morning to make the phone call. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, what do they want? What's the FBI want, right? Did I, misgender somebody, use the wrong pronoun? I'm like, what did I freaking do, right? And so the next day I get a hold of him. And the agent I spoke to, I guess he was at a grocery store or something. He goes, "I need to step outside because I have a duty to warn you." And I'm like, shit, duty to warn me for what? What did I do, right? So he goes outside and he says, we have good intelligence that you have become a priority target for Al-Qaeda through their intelligence network. And I got this also from some private networks as well. So they all came out and said the same thing. But basically AQ put out, I don't know if a fatwa is the correct term. It may be, it's similar, but basically they put out a hue and cry globally to any Al-Qaeda affiliates, lone wolves, that I am a priority target, and if they see me, to just take me out. Good luck with that. But that's the mission, right? So I've been literally, so this is not like there's a limitation to it. This is for the rest of my life.
Right.
And so the worst part is, when I notified the U.S. government, so at the time I'm living in Indonesia, and I'm like, I go to the embassy and I told them what happened, showed them the letter from the FBI, spoke to LEGAT, which is the FBI liaison at the embassy, and the RSOs, everybody else that should be concerned with this. And I said, listen, I have a credible threat against me. I'm in their backyard. Because we have JIJA, we have AQ affiliates. There's a lot of bad guys in Indonesia and that whole part of that world particularly. And so what happened was, the reason I made a big deal out of it was, it is a big deal, but the reason it's even a bigger deal for me is 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, my wife was deported. Although we'd been in the United States several times, married in the U.S., everything's up and up. What happened was, we came back during COVID. We could not go back to Indonesia because of travel restrictions. So 3 weeks turned into 3 months, turned into 6 months. At about the 6-month mark, she was hit by a sheriff's patrol car one night at 90 miles an hour in a high-speed pursuit. She was sitting as a passenger in a parked car in the turning lane when he rear-ended her, literally 90 miles an hour. Put everybody in the hospital. So while she was going through physical therapy for that, they discovered she had cancer. So now she got to go through cancer treatment. So now we're over the 6-month mark, which we honestly didn't know we had a 6-month limit to a 5-year unlimited visa, right? And I'm like, I asked the question, I go, well, if we had left at 5 months and 29 days for one day, we came back, would that have started the clock again? He go, no, you have to be gone for a year. None of this added up. None of it makes sense. None of it's actually true, right? It was all just some CBP officer pulling some crap out of his ass is what was happening. Very long story short, they ended up deporting my wife. I had everything. I had her money, credit cards, clothes. I had everything on me when they grabbed her, right? She's literally wearing shorts and flip-flops, and a T-shirt. And they literally deported her.
Don't you got somebody you can call?
Dude, I called everybody. Lawyers. I called congressmen. And this is the crazy part. Nobody had any effect whatsoever. They were basically, even when the congressman aides from Florida called, and she said, "Hey, at least send somebody out so he can give her wallet, her money, some credit cards, a jacket, and a phone charger, right?" And they refused to even do that. And the first question they asked my wife when they rolled her up, they go, "Is your husband Dale Comstock?" She's like, "Yeah." And they got on the phone. It's him. And that's when the shit show started. So this is why I know it's personal. They already had an agenda. I already knew they had an agenda, right? So, I mean, when you have the chief of immigration, the former one, not the current one, but the former one, when he tells me, sometimes you got to take responsibility for the choice you make in life, I want to reach that phone and pull his freaking trachea out of his freaking neck, because I'm the guy that stood between American families and the bad guys all these years. I'm still doing it, right? And now that I'm on the X, they're telling me, well, you're on your own. Like, listen, I said, I don't want nothing. I don't want no money. I don't want no security. I don't want nothing from you. I just want passage for my wife. So if I have to get out of here, I can. That's all I want. Give me a visa. I don't care.
Right.
The green card's not that important. Anyways, nothing happened. And so until back a few months ago, I was sitting there thinking about it. And I had everybody try to help me. I'm not going to name names here.
Right.
But I had some very prominent people at the government level, and they had zero juice. Either they didn't care or they just have no power. Or the former regime is still so embedded that they're not making any progress, right? So I ended up calling the RSO's office one day. I thought about it. I was like, let me call him and tell him that I think this is in his wheelhouse, because I think this is a security issue, right? And I don't know why I never thought of it before. So lucky for me, the ARSO answered the phone. I won't mention his name, but he seemed like a younger guy and a relatively new guy. And when I told him what happened, he lost his shit. It's like, dude, he goes, I'll take care of this. And by the next morning, I had 2 people from the embassy call me.
Wow.
And they're like, hey, we're going to get this sorted out. Your wife don't need an interview. She just needs another physical. And that is it. Basically, we're going to hand her the green card and game over. I go, that's how easy this is it? That's it? And here we are. After all this time and all the shenanigans, and I was just telling you before the show, nobody's coming, man. And it's not just me, by the way. I've got several Americans that I know of personally that are literally in a similar situation abroad, and they can't get out. I got a guy right now trapped in Ukraine with his family, literally being droned. He's literally
American dude?
Yeah, an American. He's literally rolling up Russians and Ukrainian defectors in his barn, okay? And he can't get out. He can't leave. Right, because his family's Ukrainian, but he's an American, and I'm like, man, there's some point.
So has he been in a part of the war there, or is he?
No, he just lived there.
He just lived there.
Yeah. So he's a former military guy, and through his service, he met her, the wife, and the kids, and ended up selling Ukraine. Then got caught up in the war, and now he can't get off the X because they're not American citizens. And so I've been trying to help him. But I can't even help myself. I couldn't even help myself, let alone him at this point, right? I've had other guys, similar situations in Dubai. I had a guy in Vietnam. I think we talked about this last time. I actually went and got him out. I should be careful what I say and how I say it. But basically, I've literally walked Americans across borders.
You extracted him?
I've literally, on my own, went and got him and walked him across borders and got him out and got him back to freedom. every guy that I've dealt with so far has had the same story. He goes to the embassy and they're like, well, you should get a lawyer. It's like, I live on the street. I have a backpack because I have no passport because the government took it. I can't get a job. I can't leave. I need help. Dude, I've gone through all this. It's sad, man, how people are, especially veterans, are being treated. But this particular guy wasn't even a veteran. He's just a civilian, you know? And I would do it for anybody. I heard the story and he told me what was going on and I believed him and I was right. And at least he's free. I got him out. I'm one of several guys. Another guy finally got himself out. I don't know what he had to do to make that happen, but he ended up in jail for a while before. But
how many military operations like that prison the prison, what was it, you rendered some people out of a prison?
Modelo prison?
Modelo prison,
yeah.
That operation. Like how many like high stakes precision military operations have you been a part of? Was that CIA or was that?
Okay, so let me talk about Modelo prison, and then I'll show you present day Venezuela.
Yeah,
I'll show you kind of the corollary there, right? So,
and also, are you still tapped in or tied into that world at all? Do you have any connections to the inside?
Zero,
none.
Yeah, dude, I've been out for a long time.
Right.
I'm the guy with the big mouth that wrote a book about Delta Force, right?
I just think because I hear the stories of Billy Waugh all the time, and Billy like stayed in, like he no matter what, I think he kept doing operations into his 80s, right?
Yeah, he did. Billy was actually one of our handlers. So yeah, it's a funny story too.
I know you told me that right after we finished recording that last episode. You said Billy Waugh is my handler. I was like, what the fuck? We gotta restart the podcast.
So going back to Modelo prison real quick. So this happened December 20th, 1989. And Noriega was in power. At some point, he was being, he was working for the CIA, and then he went rogue and the drugs and all the stuff that was going on. And he started killing Americans and, he became Maduro basically, and Saddam Hussein. He just became another tyrant.
Right.
And the U.S. government decided that he needs to go, and we need to change the regime. So at that time, and this is not classified, it's been on History Channel, Discovery Channel. Sometimes I question accuracy, but so the mission was,
scoot to your right just a little bit.
Noriega had already arrested a guy named Kurt Muse. So Kurt Muse, according to Kurt Muse, was just a businessman doing business in Panama. He started a Rotary Club, right? That's all bullshit. Because he actually admits in one video where CIA donated some radios to him in Miami, right? So whatever. He was there, and what he was doing was running SIGINT, basically running a counter-op against Noriega's regime, using particularly using radios and things like that. For example, Noriega gave a big speech one day, and these guys literally cut off his speech electronically, and then they gave their own version of the speech about Noriega to to the minions out there, and he lost his mind. It's like, find these guys. That's the kind of stuff they were doing. So Kurt Muse did get rolled up eventually, and he was in Modelo prison, which meant model prison at the time. It was the newest, latest, greatest prison they built, and he was secured in that. And so the mission was we need to get Kurt Muse out of Modelo prison first, right, and then everything else can happen, right?
Yep.
And so on December 17th, I was on staff duty. I get a call from JSOC. Basically, they're telling me that the operation's in effect and to alert the unit. So I paged the unit in. Just so happened to be my squadron at the time that was on alert. They come in and they're prepping. They're getting ready to load out. Now I'm injured. I just gotten blown up a few days ago by basically a stun grenade. And so I'm on crutches and hopping around on one leg in my suit. And I remember when they came in, at the time, Major Harrell, Gary Harrell, who's since passed last year and a half, General Harrell, he was my troop commander. He walks in and I give him the briefing, say, okay, sir, here's what's going on, blah, blah, I got the call, blah, blah, here's the times. And he walks out, and then he turns around, comes back in. He goes, looks at me. He goes, I know, you got one leg, and you're going through a divorce again, all the, And he goes, you are our breacher. You are part of this troop. And he goes, this is the Super Bowl. And he goes, I'm going to give you I'm going to give you an invite because if you don't go, I understand. But he goes, I'm at least give you an invite. And I'm looked at, I go, hell yeah. And I rip my suit off, run down, hobble downstairs, change my gear, and we load out. And
where were you based right then at that point?
At Fort Bragg.
Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we end up right away launching. We're in Panama. We're hanging out at Howard Air Force Base in Hangar 3, and nobody knows we're there, right? We just come in quiet of the night. We occupy the hangar, start doing our prep work. So this was circa December 17th at this point, so we had a couple days to prep. Now, I had never trained for or rehearsed or prepared for this target because I happened to be going through a special force qualification course to be Green Beret. So I just got back. First day of training, I get blown up. And now I'm in a suit pulling staff duty, right? And so now I'm an integral part of this assault because I'm going to be the breacher that blows the doors on the top annex to get us into the prison. And so I didn't have a chance to rehearse on the actual mock-up. I had no chance to do any of that.
Did they have a mock-up?
Yeah.
Really?
I never saw it, but
the other dudes were rehearsing on it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
How long did they have to prepare for this?
If I remember right, they prepare 3 or 4 months. Because I don't know. I was in school at the time, so I don't know what they were doing. I was just focused on getting through the Q course. But I know they've been training for a while and preparing for a while. So
it's the mushroom you've all seen before, the one with the bright red cap and the little white dots, the one you've seen on Mario and your favorite Christmas fairy tales. It's not psilocybin and it's not a psychedelic trip. It's Amanita muscaria. It's legal and it provides stress relief you've never experienced before. I never would have touched Amanita muscaria if it weren't for Amintara. You see those sketchy gas station products all the time doing a lot of harm, which damages the public's perception of the real thing. Amintara is the complete opposite. They're the largest Amanita supplier in the US, totally legal, ethically sourced, lab tested, and they work directly with foraging families around the world. This isn't a side hustle or a scam. It's a serious operation. Real Amanita muscaria tastes earthly, almost like a tea, not an artificial chemical. And the experience feels clean, with no weird edge and no synthetic vibe. They sent me these and these right here, but these 500 milligram capsules are my favorite. I like to take them in the evening when I get home from work because it's huge for stress relief. It helps me be in the moment when I'm around my family and all my screaming kids. And it's also super helpful when it's late at night and I'm reading or I want to be creative. It helps get my mind off the typical vibration of everyday life. And it also is a great reset for the day. Imagine being in a messy room with spaghetti and meatballs all over the walls and 3 screaming children punching each other in the face and not feeling stressed. That's what Amintara does. If you're curious about Amanita, don't grab something random off the counter. Use the legitimate and trusted professionals. Amintara's 500 milligram capsules and gummies are consistent and beginner friendly. 2 to 3 capsules is a great starting point. Check out the gentle, relaxing effects of Amanita muscaria today. Go to amintara.com/go/DJ and use the code DJ22 for 22% off your first order. Again, that's AMENTARA.com/go/DJ and use that code DJ22 for 22% off your first order. It's linked down below. Now back to the show.
But anyways, so I'll kind of fast forward a little bit. So the night of December 20th, we already had our sniper observer teams out. They were pulling reconnaissance, surveilling the prison, the commandante, which was right across the street. And about 7 hours out, our snipers called back and said, hey, there's some unusual activity. They're starting to build up, plus up. They're bringing in more weapon systems, heavy weapon systems. They're fortifying the prison, the city blocks. They know something's going on because now that they're showing up, all the locals started showing up because locals go, oh, what's going on here, right? So they all started coming out the lawn chairs and the cars and the beers and whatever the hell they're drinking. And you would think, just from the video, that they were expecting like a Mardi Gras parade or something coming that night, right? Mm-hmm. And they're all drinking and dancing, carrying on. And but we know we'd been compromised at this point, and we were, right? So if I remember correctly, a couple guys, one was a Marine, one was Army MP. Those were at least 2 of many guys that got on the phone, called mommy and daddy, said, mommy, daddy, something's going to happen tonight. I may not see you again, and so all that was intercepted, right? So, loose lips sink ships, the whole OPSEC thing. And some other guy goes down to the canal, tells all his friends, hey guys, you guys don't want to be here tonight because, there's going to be a light show and don't want you to get hurt. These are all tip-offs, man. And, guys went thinking they're doing something out of goodwill, but really what they did is they jeopardized the whole operation and people's lives by doing that. Because now what happened was 7 hours out, we've got these guys shoring up the corners and the stores, the corners and the tops of the buildings and things like that, shoring everything up. And so now we have a problem. It's like, okay, hit time was 000, it was basically midnight, right? Was hit time on December 20th. And we're like, well, we really don't have a lot of room to flex right or flex left, because in the air right now from Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune, there's probably 100 plus aircraft in the air carrying troopers, paratroopers, and rangers inbound, right? Because we're getting ready to invade the whole country, but the invasion is not going to start until we go in and get Kurt Muse out of the prison, okay? So
100 aircraft to
at
get
least
this one guy out of this prison.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just to get him out. It was also to basically, if you will, basically invade the country, right? And take it over, control it, get rid of Noriega, his troops, and neutralize it. And so, so we got a big signature in the air, right? You can't erase that now. They're inbound. And even if we were able to turn them around, the whole mission's compromised, right? We're probably not going to be able to pull that off a second time, right? So we got to go. So the decision was made to push hit time 20 minutes to the right. So 0020 hours on December 20th was hit time. It's 20 minutes. Not much, but it's something, right? So, right before, that night we loaded the aircraft. So before we loaded the aircraft, if I remember right, we had 15 helicopters total. We had 4 MH6, the little birds with the little pods on the side the guys sit on, right? You see pictures of those. We had 4 AH6s, which is the little birds with the gunchips. We had 4 Cobras, and if I remember right, 4 Apaches, and at least 2 UH-60 Blackhawks, CNC control birds, right? And medevac. So we had about a 15 aircraft package. And the interesting part about the little birds was, now at that time, the little birds of that era were basically the little flying eggs, and the engine in it was the same engines they use for irrigation pumps, right? So like in the farm fields, the big sprinkler systems require some type of big ass motor, right? To pump all that water out there. Well, that's the same thing that's keeping us flying in this helicopter, right? This water pump.
That's comforting,
right? Yeah, I didn't know that until I was talking to one of the pilots at the time. He goes, "Yeah, it's a water irrigation pump, and that's what we're going to be flying around it." I was like, "Holy!" So it doesn't have a lot of power either, right? And of course, we want to put a lot of stuff on there and bring it with us. So it became the aircraft load, ACL was an issue, right? How much can we put on a little bird, right? So we normally trained with them all the time, but because we're going to go in on this prison, we brought a lot of extra stuff like breaching equipment, whether it was thermal arcs, explosives, and cutting tools, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to come with us, weapon systems, and yeah, that's it right there, right, the little birds. And so the problem was we had to get a weight for every operator, and
yeah,
I weighed in with 70 pounds worth of equipment on, and I was actually the lightest guy, and I didn't even have water on me, right? That's just the ammo load that we're carrying. We carried lots of ammunition. I'm carrying breaching charges, firing systems. We're all carrying at least 2 radios. We're carrying a lot of stuff, and we didn't bring. Most of us probably didn't bring any water at all, thinking we're not going to be there long enough. And if we really need a drink, we'll go downstairs in the prison and we'll drink it out of the faucet. No. But so I was 70 pounds at the lightest at that time. And during that era, I weighed about 164 pounds. So I had 70 pounds worth of gear on my back, and that's what I weighed. And so when you look at that and you look, okay, you got 4 operators on the helicopter, okay? And then you start weighing in the pilots, right? It didn't take us long to be over the ACL load, right? Breach the ACL load. So now what do we got to do? We got to figure out where can we cut weight. And one of the things we did, we started stripping some of the avionics out of the little birds. Like, you don't need this, you don't need this thing to fly from here to there. It's not very far. In fact, there's 1 minute and 43 seconds flight time from Howard Air Force Base to the prison. And so
where's Howard Air Force Base?
In Panama. Yeah, in Panama.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So that's where we staged out of.
So you guys launched out of Panama.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah. So we flew there, covertly at night, landed.
Yep.
We snuck into the hangars, just blended in like all the other airmen and stuff. But we were basically prepping is what we were doing for this hit. And so we ended up stripping a lot of the avionics out of the helicopters, and then it still wasn't enough, right? And we're like, man, we're just a little over, and then we got 2 pilots. One of you don't get to go, and we literally had 2 helicopters and only had 1 pilot. For the weight purpose. So the irony of it is the 2 helicopters that had 2 pilots each had 1 pilot get shot. So think about that for a minute. Now, had it been the other 2 helicopters with 1 pilot, that might have been a problem. Right? So call it serendipity. So we stripped a lot of the weight, the avionics. We pared down 2 helicopters to 1 pilot each. And then right before 20 after midnight is when we launched. So the flight time, it was 1 minute and 43 seconds to 46 seconds. I got to look at my notes, but it wasn't a long flight. We left Howard Air Force Base, went across the Bridge of Americas. We went through what was called Ancon Hill. It was like a saddle. And as soon as you breach that saddle, right there in front of you is the prison, the commandant's, all of Panama. So, So off we go. We go through the saddle, and then the snipers. As soon as we come through the saddle, the snipers start engaging, and as soon as they started engaging, it just a melee on the street. Man, there were just people running everywhere, and people shooting back. We don't know who's shooting who, because we're literally moving at about 40 feet, 50 feet off the deck in these little birds. And we're not going very fast because the problem was the weight again, right?
Off the deck of what?
Off the ground, I mean. Sorry.
Off the ground,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So above the ground, right? So we're doing 50 feet, 60 feet AGL above the ground level, probably doing maybe 50, 60 knots. And the reason why we can't just zip right in and flare is because of the weight, right? So the helicopters just couldn't flare in. They had to come in really slow and then sink these things down on the roof. And then on takeoff was even more problematic because you need forward speed to get the lift under the rotors to get up in the air, right? So you need some running space too. And there wasn't a lot of that. So as we're coming in, slow hover, I remember I was on the port side, and it was just total chaos, man. There were people running everywhere, people shooting at us shooting at them. If you could even discern who's who,
spraying.
Yeah, the lights went out. The whole city went blacked out. We were taking fire from all the high-rise apartments around us because they were housing Panamanian Defense Forces as well. And they kept their weapons. So we're literally taking plunging fire from above. We're taking ground fire. And then, like I said, it's just total chaos on the ground. Trying to target, discriminate was a challenge, trying to see who's who, and it's dark out, right? And so we end up finally landing on the roof. As we're landing on the roof, my bird was number 1 because I had to get off. My job was to run over to the annex. The annex was about 10 feet by 10 feet. So just a concrete structure with a door on it. That would give you access into the building. It was 4 stories. And now, originally, when I got intel from the CIA, they said it was a solid steel door. I said, okay, so I prepared my charges for that, net explosive weight, blah, 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 charge configuration. When I get to the target and I run up to the annex to place my charge, I'll be damned. Yeah, there's a steel door, but it's behind a jail door about 6 to 8 inches. So now I've got a jail door and a steel door, and I've got to breach both these doors. The problem with the jail door is there's not a whole lot of surface area for charge contact, right? So the particular charge I was using was very big. I put a lot of extra explosives on it because I figured, you know what, there's not going to be any good guys behind this door, just bad guys. So I'm actually glad I did, because that extra explosive weight that I put on the charge allowed me to push that jail door through the steel door on the backside and launch both of them into the building on the far wall and slide it nicely down the wall out of the way. It was perfect breach. But it didn't go that way. It didn't start that way. And I don't mind telling people this story because, it's just what it is. But I actually had an error at the door. So I get to the door, I place the charge, and I'm looking at these bars going, man, this charge is barely going to stick to this thing because I had adhesives to hold it in place. So I'm pressing it on as tight as I can, and I'm waiting for the rest of the assault force to land and stack up around the building at the cupola, right? It's going to be 2 assault teams going in, not a lot of guys. And And I'm listening on the radio. I can hear the helicopters landing, taking off. I'm waiting for the command from the troop commander that we're ready to go. And I'm sitting there just, pins and needles, man, waiting. I'm taking fire from everywhere, right? And finally, it's time to go. I pull the system, and I had a malfunction. And without getting too technical, one of the firing systems, it didn't fail necessarily. It failed because a safety cotter pin didn't come all the way out. And so, anyways, in my haste, because I had an 8-second firing system on it, that's not a lot of time, 8 seconds, right? By the time you get done screwing around with that, it's like, how many seconds do I got left? 4 seconds. I remember messing around with this thing. I said, something feels off, but it should be burning because I pulled it hard enough. But I can't hear it, I can't see because of all the noise and the gunfire. And I said, it's got to be burning. I said, now I got maybe 3 seconds to get off the X, right? So as I get off the target, and I'm going to run around behind the stack, the charge comes off the door, right? And it falls right behind me as I'm running away. And I could see it out of peripheral vision. I was like, oh, crap, and poop, it hits the ground. And so in my mind, I'm counting 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. And at that point, I realized that the charge misfired, right? So I run back out there, I grab it, 2 hands full, place it on the door again. I said, all right, Comstock, by the numbers, do it again. Do it by the number. So I go through it, and sure enough, one of the systems failed. The second one did fire, and I knew when it fired, okay, I got at least one firing system went off. And in my haste, I ran around the other side, exposing myself to gunfire. I just wanted the charge to go bang. I didn't care if I died in the process. It just got to go bang because, otherwise it's all on me, right? So I run around the other side, boom, it does go off, and we make entry to the building. Long story short, we ended up rescuing Kurt Muse. The bottom floor had been reinforced with another 60 Panamanian Defense Force. So there's about 120 shooters on the ground level because they were actually expecting a ground assault, right? They didn't expect us to come in from the roof. And so we came from the roof down. We got him in the second floor. We killed his interrogator. A couple other people were in the way. And then we got Muse out, got him on the helicopter. He was on the first helicopter to leave. And he was the first helicopter to get shot down after he left. Remember what I said earlier about they have to get a running start? Mm-hmm. The problem was there was not enough room for running, and the helicopter kind of lifted up and dove off the roof to get some speed. And when he did, he took ground fire from the bottom floor. They just sprayed him from the bottom up, right? So he did a couple of jigs and jags and zigs and zags, and he ended up hitting a power line, gets shot down again, ends up crashing into the street. 2 of the operators got shot. My team leader got hit in the head by the rotor strike from the rotor blade, chopped his helmet off. The only guy that was conscious was...
Chopped his head?
Well, his helmet, Protect.
But literally. He lived?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But he was on medicine for like 5 months after that, and he ended up in another helicopter crash with us. That one paralyzed him for the rest of his life. That was actually his 3rd helicopter crash in 6 months. The 3rd one took him out. You'd think the second one would, but the second one just knocked him out, shaved his top of his helmet off.
That's why I don't fuck with helicopters.
Yeah, dude.
Every year around this time, everyone likes to talk up a big game. New year, new me, blah, blah, blah. But nothing ever really changes until you actually start. We all have great ideas, but if you've been sitting on one that all the people around you have been telling you need to start, January is the time to launch it. Because Shopify gives you everything you need to sell online or in person without overcomplicating your life. Millions of entrepreneurs have already made this jump. Big brands, small brands, and people launching their very first business. Shopify makes it stupid simple so you can pick from hundreds of beautiful templates and customize them to look exactly how you want. Their built-in AI tools even help write product descriptions, headlines, and clean up your product photos. Marketing, it's handled. Email campaigns, social posts, all built right into Shopify so you can reach people wherever they're scrolling. And the best part is, as you grow, Shopify grows with you. More orders, bigger audiences, new markets. You manage everything from one clean and simple dashboard. Don't let February hit before you get started. Launch your idea today. In 2026, stop waiting and start selling with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling at shopify.com/Danny Jones. Again, that's shopify.com/Danny Jones. Shopify.com/DANNYJONES. Hear your first this new year with Shopify by your side.
I tell you what, helicopters, bullets, and motorcycles probably jack up more Delta operators than anything, man. So,
Jesus.
Yeah. I don't know how much motorcycle riding they do anymore, but back
Most
in the day.
people in general,
Yeah.
not even just Delta operators.
Yeah. We sustained a lot of injuries from, especially helicopters. I remember standing in my team room with Larry Vickers. Probably a lot of people know who Larry Vickers is, but Larry was on my team. I was his team leader, and I remember we're sitting around talking about helicopter crashes one day. He go, you know what? It's not a matter if, it's when. He said, we're going to crash. As many times we've been in helicopters, as many helicopter crashes we have, is our day is coming, man. And it wasn't long after that Modelo prison happened. And then Panama happened after that. Me and him were in the same helicopter crash in May of 1990 in Panama on Mother's Day in the jungle, Darien jungle. But anyways, all total, it took us 6 minutes to get him out and get off the roof and get back to the Air Force Base. Now, remember when we got
So
back,
what happened after Muse's helicopter crashed?
So my helicopter should have actually been the last helicopter back at Howard Air Force Base. It was the only helicopter to get back. And I remember when we came off the roof, the other thing we had the 193rd, I believe it was, or 193rd or 197th, I can't remember now, infantry. At that time, it's Christmas time, so they all went home to the U.S. So the only people who were left were, you had cooks and clerks and mechanics. Those were the stay behind. And so they actually became the blocking forces, and they actually manned their APCs, M113s, with 50 caliber machine guns. And their job was, when H. Howard went down, was to come in and block off all the street intersections, right? Cordon it off. Right. And so as they tried to get in, they couldn't get in because all these civilians were out there in cars and just blocking these guys from getting in. And we needed them to get in there and do it. So they were like literally driving over cars and people were sitting in them. That's why I say it was just a big mess. There's no spectators in a firefight. We said that in Mogadishu. And when people are hanging around, they're hanging around a gunfight. They probably got bad intentions. It might be, we call them spotters. Maybe they're spotting, I don't know. But anyways, they come rolling in, and they didn't have the same weapons discipline as infantry guys. So, imagine you got a guy who's a mechanic or he flips hamburgers. Now he's on a Madu's 50 caliber machine gun with tracers, and he's just freaking unloading and all the buildings around us. Wherever there's gunfire, he's shooting back, And I remember coming off the roof, and literally what looked like flaming basketballs coming up at the helicopter. And I remember picking my legs up as it whoosh goes underneath us. And those are tracers from 50 calibers. They look like flaming basketballs from the other end, from the receiver's end. They're massive, right? These guys were just shooting, man, and just bullets flying everywhere. So we land. Yeah, we landed at the Air Force Base, and there's just us. And we have what's called the JMOUS. The JMOUS, basically, it's a joint medical unit, right? So all the surgeons, you got everybody there, right? They got all the tents set up on the tarmac, and they're all standing there with their hands clasped, they're waiting, because they're expecting casualties.
Right.
And we're the only ones that show up. And my team leader gets off. He goes, wait right here. He runs over. I can see him talking to somebody over there in chain of command. And he comes running back. He goes, okay, put a fresh magazine. And he goes, the principal's been shot down, and we got to go back and get him back out. And I thought, that's when I got scared. I wasn't scared up until this point because I know what I just left. I was like, I was a beehive, right? And I was like, we're going to go back in there.
A hornet's nest.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, we got to go back in. They got shot down. And I thought, man, this is going to be another Somalia, Mogadishu scenario possibly, right? So we get, reloaded, and helicopters spinning back up. And I can see the green and red strobe lights from the other sorties coming in, right? And so while we were sitting there, they did manage to recover Kurt Muse and that assault team that was on that Little Bird, because we actually had Delta operators in some of these APCs, right? And they were basically acting as ground commanders for this element, right? The support, the QRF, right? The Quick Reaction Force and the Blocking Force. So they were able to guide the vehicles over there and recover them and put them back to APCs and get them out. So that was, 6 minutes. If I remember right, it's 23 or 26 guys. I can't remember off the top of my head. 23 or 26, not a lot of us. And we went in there and literally grabbed this man out of a prison, a hardened prison, right, with shooters everywhere. And we didn't lose a man.
Did you say 6 minutes?
6 minutes.
That whole thing?
6 minutes. 6 minutes from the time the wheels went up on the Howard Air Force Base until they landed again. 6 minutes, dude.
What?
Yeah. super fast, right? And now check this out, to put it all in perspective. So you were talking to me about Venezuela earlier. You know,
yeah, I wanted to know what your take was on that whole operation. There's a lot of people that like did breakdowns of it, online, like how it went, how they launched off that that Iwo Jima ship. Some of them launched from Puerto Rico.
Yeah. So again, I think it took them 9 minutes, right? If I remember right, 9 or 10 minutes. So we'll beat them by 4 minutes
for this new operation for the Venezuela one.
Yeah. So got to dig on them a little bit, but anyways,
absolute resolve is what they call it.
So look, nobody really knows exactly what happened unless they were there, right? So they're going to speculate quite a bit. Some of the speculation out there is, that's the little bird that got shot down.
Oh, that's your bird.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
You see how it's canted to its side? On that side, my assistant team leader got out. Actually, Kurt Muse got out. He was the only guy who survived the crash consciously. And he got out and he started to walk into the rotor blades. See how they're dipping? The engine was still running. And he started to walk into it. My assistant team leader kind of woke up, saw what was about to happen, reached up, grabbed him, pulled him down. And when he pulled Kurt Muse down, he took the rotor strike into the head. So he was wearing a Protec helmet, right, the plastic helmets, and it literally shaved the top
skateboard
of it.
Helmet?
Yeah. That's what we used to go in with.
Really?
Yeah. If you notice my picture, I'm the only guy wearing Kevlar helmet. Everybody else is wearing Protecs. It wasn't until after Mogadishu that everybody said to hell with these plastic bullets, because we had helmets, because we had another guy get shot in the head, he get killed, and we started going to the Mitch helmets and the smaller Kevlar helmets, right? That started that whole process. But yeah, he took a rotor strike right there in the head, knocked him clean out. Kurt Muse was laying next to him, and Kurt Muse actually took his 45 with him from him, thinking he's going to have to make his Custer's last stand. Yeah. And then Tom woke up and grabbed his gun and go, no, and then everybody else showed up and got him out of there. Yeah. But so I've heard comments about, the Venezuela mission. So, and
that was Delta Force?
Yeah. So, it was Delta that went in and did that one. And so a lot of attributions were given to like technology, right? So like, for example, how were our aircraft able to bypass the Chinese and the Russian radar systems, right?
That they had there.
Yeah, we neutralized everything.
And first of all, so this would have happened the same way as far as preparation that you guys prepped for Modelo Prison. They would have had a complete mock-up of that whole compound somewhere?
Yeah, actually somebody came out and made that comment that they did have a mock-up, and it wouldn't surprise me. Why not? Because Delta's got so much money because they're allocated, even in peacetime, they're allocated as a wartime, like the war operational, right? Wartime operation. So they get wartime funding all the time. They got plenty of money, right? And it's not even an obstacle. So for them to ask for, a bunch of money to build a mock-up of that facility, that would have been no problem.
Right. They would have had spies. They would have had recruits on the ground. The CIA would have recruited folks inside of his close circle, his inner circle.
Absolutely.
To know where he's at, tracking him at all times, or at least most of the time.
Yep, absolutely. So, so what you have here is kind of an amalgamation of many different elements that are going to contribute to this operation. So I always say it like this, Delta Force is really the spear. It's the tip of the spear. It's the shiny pointy end, right? That's what you want to stab everybody with. And but that spearhead doesn't go anywhere until you've got a shaft that's long enough it can support that spear and throw it directionally into a target. And so what does that support staff looks like? That literally a staff. It's everything from the helicopters, the pilots, to the intel, to everybody that had a hand in making this mission successful. They're part of that shaft behind the spear, the spearhead. But I will argue.
Let me ask you this. I don't mean to interrupt your train of thought. Where does Ground Branch fit into all this? This might be a stupid question.
No, it's not actually a stupid question because, I've been reading quite a bit about Ground Branch lately as well. It's obviously a CIA capability. And most likely those guys had some part of it, no doubt. They were in there somewhere doing something, That's why I said a lot of people can speculate all they want. But this mission was so complex and so big. Think of what would have
150 aircrafts total, I read.
Now think of what would have happened if one helicopter, one Black Hawk, one Chinook crashed somewhere in and around the target or the objective area with a bunch of Delta operators on it. Now you got Mogadishu all over again. now you got problems, right? Now you got real drama. And not only that, that's going to look really bad on Trump.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to hold it over his head. That was a huge gamble on his part. Right? Massive gamble. Him and Hegseth, like, this is ballsy. But they pulled it off. And why they pull it off? Because they know they've got the best equipment in the world. Jammers, the drones, everything they've used and everything they brought to bear, the sonic weapons, which is really not that new, but they brought a lot of things to bear ultimately. But in the end of the day, it comes back to the man on the ground with the gun.
Yes.
Right? That's the final, that's the differentiator right there.
Those dudes are the most trained assassins in the world.
Absolutely. And so my what I wanted to add to that was, Delta Force has a very peculiar selection in that when you go through the selection process, you don't go through as a group. Like, you see, the SEALs, the Buds, up and down the beach, carrying a boat, stuff like that, right? That doesn't happen. Delta selection, every man is selected on his individual merit. You're evaluated by yourself on your own. There's no pressure. There's no persuasion. There's no inducement, compulsion. You're actually Mr. Anonymous. They don't even use your real name. You're like a nobody, right? And they do that on purpose. And they give you tasks to complete without telling you what the standard for performance is, right? So they just tell you to do the best you can. So every day you're by yourself doing the best you can, and it's grueling, it's hard physiologically, you wreck your body in pretty short order. And when the body goes, the mind goes, right? And so is Delta Force testing your body, or are they testing your mind? I saw an article, now there's a lot of YouTube video out on Delta, right? And they were talking about, they did an interview with Ben Affleck, and he was talking about he met Delta guys, right? He goes, you know what? He goes, they're not really big. They don't look really muscular. Like, they don't look like these tough guys. And he goes, why are these guys what makes you guys so different? And he asked one of the guys, and he goes, what makes us so good is our ability to solve problems, right? Problem solving. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of truth to that, because there's a term called effective intelligence, right? So you go on LinkedIn and you're going to see all these guys with advanced degrees, and they're dumber than a rock, right? They're very linear. I'll use Elon Musk's term, you can buy an education, but you can't buy intelligence, right? So you got a lot of guys that bought an education, but have zero intelligence or common sense.
Right.
I mean, let's be real, man. What's their name? Jackson, the Supreme Court, okay, describe a woman. When we got people with that kind of level of intellect and they can't describe a woman, either they don't want to, which is, being disingenuous, or they're just that stupid, right? Yeah. Either way, they're in positions of power. But you see a lot of people with educations that are dumber as a rock. Now, effective intelligence, you can kind of compare that to common sense, right? Street
smarts.
Right? So there's a lot to be said for that. Would I rather be
know how to deal with people? Yeah,
exactly, right? And survive. And so that is the difference. And, Delta operators have above average IQs, but that doesn't make you smart. Doesn't give you effective intelligence either. We all have a high GT score, which is like the Army equivalent of a skill/IQ test.
What did you call it? A what score?
GT.
GT.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like when you join the Army, I think they still do that now. They should. They'll test you. And they give you a battery test, right? And different categories like, mechanics or whatever, right? And then basically what they do is they use that to, if you will, assess your aptitude. And if you're over 110, I believe it is, if your GT score is over 110, you're eligible to do anything in the military, right? You're smart enough to do anything. If you're below that, then, you get categories that you're qualified for, and then other categories you don't get to participate in, right? So all Delta operators have above average GT scores, IQ scores. But we really don't know. It's one of the best kept secrets. Why do guys get selected in Delta, right?
Right.
Because the nutrition rate is through the roof. It's super high. And nobody knows except the psychologists and the gatekeepers. And when I say gatekeepers, there's only certain officers and non-commissioned officers, senior non-commissioned officers, that know the criterion required for selection. And it's safe. It's one of the best kept secrets out there.
Really?
It's the best kept secret.
That's interesting because we know the criteria that it takes to be recruited to the CIA, to become a CIA officer.
Yeah.
Like that's out in the open. They talk about that all the time.
Right. But you don't know what it is for Delta. Even Delta operators don't know what it is. We speculate all the time. We sit around sometimes drinking beer after duty. Like, why did they pick you?
What do you think?
Why did they pick me? You know what? I remember some of these conversations we had, and one guy brought it up. He gave the best explanation out of the group. He goes, I believe we've all been selected because we're all controlled psychopathic killers. And I thought about it, I was like, there's probably a lot of truth to that, because here's the thing. No man there had any reluctance to shoot somebody. We had no problem with that. We didn't lose sleep over it. Because we know why we were doing it. We were doing it for the right reasons. And there was no problem with it. There was no inhibition whatsoever, right? And that does take that takes some kind of psychopathy to be able to do that, right? Because if you read the book by David Grossman, right? Colonel Grossman on killing, he talks quite a bit about that.
About killing.
It's called About Killing. On Killing, I'm sorry, called On Killing.
Whoa.
Right? And by David Grossman. And it's been out for a while.
And what was his story? What was David
He used to be a colonel and a psychologist in the Army.
Okay.
And he's
who's killed people.
Well, yeah, he was literally, what he wanted to know was, why do some men kill and some men don't, right? And they went through this whole analytical process all the way back to when we still had, sabers and muskets and things like that. And what he determined out of that was a couple of things. So, for example, you could have 10 infantry guys, all the same level of training, and they're meeting a threat head on. Maybe one of those 10 guys actually want to kill the other people, and he's trying. And the other ones are what he called posturing. They're going through the motions. They're shooting, but they're shooting around over their heads. They're not actually trying to kill the guy.
Really?
Right? And yeah, he takes it all the way back to like the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, where you had the bayonet charges, right? And you have two armies meet in the middle of the field, a lot of noise, screaming and hollering and metal clanking, and then all of a sudden, the retreat sounds, everybody backs up and there's like two guys laying there. And that's it. Like, everybody else walks away.
They're just pretending.
Well, the two are dead, but everybody else, so he calls
Maybe
it.
two died, right?
Yeah, he calls it posturing, right? So you're posturing, like they're actually fighting, making a lot of noise. But we have an innate inhibition to killing people. That's the reality of it, right? If we didn't, we'd be killing each other left and right all day long. But we don't do that, right? Even in a fight, usually a fight ends before somebody dies. A guy will give quarter to the guy. It's built in, it's innate. Just like animals, they do the same thing, right? So, although in this era,
is there a distinction that he makes between offensive killing versus defensive killing? Like protecting yourself? Like if you're getting ambushed, right?
Yeah.
I can't imagine there's any human being that would not take a gun and shoot the person who's about to kill them.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I'm going to segue onto that too.
Okay.
That's an interesting phenomenon. So going back to what I just said a second ago, very few men have the real gumption or ability or courage to kill somebody else. They would rather avoid it.
Sure.
It's innate, right? But there are a few out there that have no problem doing that, and for whatever reason, right? It could be some kind of psychopathy. It could be something cultural,
or if people that actively seek it out, like Billy Waugh.
Right. Well, and here's the thing, right? So the military understood this phenomenon for a very long time. So if you look at, for example, like on the known distance ranges, right? KD ranges where you have to qualify with your M16 or M4 or whatever you got, right? And you have to shoot a target out to 300 yards. They're silhouettes like human beings, right? They look like a human silhouette. And what they're doing is conditioning you to shoot at a human silhouette, right? So you're not adverse to it. And as you get closer, now you see the cartoon targets. Some are very realistic pictures of a guy with a gun, and a hostage, and this is all part of the conditioning process. And even that, a lot of guys still have problems shooting a real person. I've seen people hesitate because, like, I got to shoot this guy now. Am I ready for it? And so there's a thing, it's called resolving your own death, right? So most people haven't resolved their own death. And so talking from a defensive perspective, a lot of guys and women will hesitate before they even defend themselves, because what happens is They woke up in the morning, they didn't kiss their wife or husband goodbye, they didn't pay the insurance, they didn't take care of the things that they need to take care of, so their family's taken care of. So when they meet this moment in time, this potential threat, they hesitate because shit, I didn't pay the insurance. If I die now, my wife and family screwed. Or I didn't kiss my wife goodbye. Or I didn't resolve my death with my religious beliefs. Do I believe in God? Right? Yeah. So those are all things that will make you balk or hesitate.
Interesting.
Right? And so if you want to be a deadly son of a bitch that fights without any inhibition, you've got to sort all that out early on.
Tie up the loose ends.
You got it. And so this is one of the things about Delta guys, I think. They already came there. They've already resolved their own death, man. They're ready to go down range, and if they don't come back, they don't come back. They're good with that, right? So, and I think that's a big important piece of this thing because it does require a level of maturity. And by the way, the average operator there is 33 years old, average. And I've said this before. At the time, I believe I was one of the youngest guys ever to get selected at the age of 23. And that was pretty young. I didn't have a lot of experience. I had 4 years in the Army. I was really good at digging foxholes and filling them up, sitting under a tree for a couple of days, cleaning my M16. I was about as good as it got, right, at being in the infantry. But I was young, and I did get selected. And like I said, most of the guys were much older. And what does that age bring? That age brings, in my mind, besides maturity, also, at that time, by the time you're 33, you should probably have already resolved your own death, right? You should have already figured out, who am I? What's my purpose? Why am I here? Where am I going? What do I want to do? Yeah. And if I drop out today, will it matter, right? So that needs to be sorted out too. I think a lot of guys in the unit, they've done that way before they ever got there. Because I never saw a guy ever hesitate when it came time to fight. He ran right in there, is willing to get it on. So there's a couple different variables that affect combat performance. One of them obviously is our natural inhibition to engage and kill. And then the other part on the defensive side is if we don't resolve our own death, we're going to hesitate again, and it could get us and others killed as well, right? And so to me, that's a big deal. And when I go back, circling all the way back around to the Venezuela thing, here you've got 20. Somebody quoted like 26 guys, I think, went in on that target, Delta operators, and they smoke checked everybody there. And, they went in there because...
they killed like 33 security guards or something like that?
They
Cuban
killed,
dudes?
Yeah, killed all his bodyguards, 33 or 39 of them, right off the bat, and didn't lose a man in the process. That says a lot about the character of a Delta operator, and somewhat, although we don't know what that, we don't know the psychology, the mentality that they have, why they're able to do that. I had a friend tell me one time, he was actually one of my teammates, and he went to school to get his psychology degree, and he came back one day and he said, he said Delta operators have, what was it, their serotonin levels? He thinks serotonin levels were on par like with a serial killer, right? I mean, there's something in us that just not makes you, we're not murderous. Delta guys are not murderous, far from it. But there's something in us, and I don't want to call it fearlessness either, because when people use the word fearless, a person is fearless, they're too stupid to realize they're in trouble and they do it anyways, right? So contrast that to a guy that's got courage. The guy has courage goes, you know what, I'm in trouble. I don't think I know what I'm doing, but at least I got to do something when he does it, right? So that's another character, another kind of guy. The third guy is the guy that knows how to cope because he has confidence, right? He doesn't need courage, and he's not fearless. He doesn't have to be fearless. He can actually control the situation rather than control him, right? He runs everything. And I think that's where we're at when we talk about the level of Delta operators, because they don't go in there and fight out of fear. They don't fight because they need courage. They fight because they run the situation. It's not running them. They're running all those bodyguards. They're running the entire scenario. They're controlling. They knew
exactly how that was going to go down. Absolutely.
And so when we talk about technology, like I said a minute ago, technology helps deliver the force, but at the end of the day, it's the guy on the ground with the gun that makes it happen. Yeah. Because They could have easily botched that up, right? Real easy. And now what do you got? You got nothing. All the technology worked except the operator failed. No, the operator's not going to fail.
Yeah.
You know, if anything, it's technology. And truth be told, Delta operators don't count on the technology. You know, they just assume it's going to break anyways when it goes in. So, you know, it always comes down to the guy underground with the gun.
Yeah.
Making those shots.
Months ago, I realized I was starting to go through a can of nicotine pouches in just 2 days. My sleep was getting worse, my recovery was getting slower, and I couldn't figure out why. Then I picked up some Ultra pouches, and the difference has been incredible. Ultra gives me the same pouch experience I actually like. The burn, the little kick, the flavor without nicotine or caffeine. No jitters, no crash, no feeling wired at midnight. My favorite part is these things are packed with natural nootropics that help with my focus and mental clarity. And what really surprised me is how much better my body feels. Better sleep, stronger workouts, and my recovery is actually getting faster. Nicotine messes with blood flow and stress hormones. It's a way smoother flow state, especially if pre-workouts tend to overstimulate you, which means I get to keep the habit without the vice holding me back. Ultra is the ultimate guilt-free pouch, delivering instant focus and mental clarity without nicotine or caffeine. And new customers can use the code DANNY for 15% off at takeultra.com. That's TAKEULTRA.com with code Danny. And when they ask where you heard about them, please tell them we sent you. Yeah, what did you make of those claims about those directed energy weapons that were taking out all the communication, and there was like a reports of people vomiting up blood and nosebleeds and stuff like that? Have you ever seen or heard anything like that before?
Yeah. It's actually not really new technology. It's been around for a while. I mean, I've seen truck-mounted of these sonic weapons, right? With these gigantic speakers. And they were using them for
like the crowd control stuff?
Yeah, crowd control stuff like that, right? So it would only make sense that, at this point, they've come up with a handheld version of it or smaller versions of it, you know, maybe helicopter mounted.
Right.
And it's directional. You know, you hit a guy with sonic waves, like hitting him with microwaves, you know. All those frequencies coming at him at one time, for sure, has got to do something to disrupt, you know,
those things?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Sound cannons.
Yeah. For sure, it's going to disrupt, you know, your biology. Because here's the thing, right? All we are is frequency, energy, vibration. We are just energy. That's all we are, right? All our molecules are all moving and vibrating at the same time. And so if I was able to blast you with one of these sonic weapons, I could probably alter your frequency to your body and make you do things like throw up, bleed, and maybe even die. So yeah, the technology is not necessarily new. It's probably been improved quite a bit. And you just got it. So they just trotted it out and showcased it, you know, and that ought to raise some eyebrows around the world. It's like, damn, these guys came into this country, penetrated deep, and took this guy and his wife out.
It's pretty crazy,
right? But it's not the first time. We did it in Modelo. We did it here. And again, hats off to the to the military. Makes me proud to be an American still, and proud to be a soldier. And this goes, man. It just goes to show, man. You don't trifle with Americans, man. Piss us off. There's a reason we're Americans. you know. So
well, apparently now we're getting ready to do it in Greenland.
Yeah, right. That's a funny story.
I don't think we need to, because we have a treaty with them. We have that Thule base there, and we're allowed to do whatever we want there.
Yeah.
I think the only rule in the treaty is like we have to at least like give them a heads up or something.
Yeah. So I was just reading a long article on that this morning. It was actually pretty good. So this is not some new phenomena. There's been this agreement for a very long time. And,
right, since like the 50s, 51, I think.
Actually longer than that. It actually,
really?
Yeah, actually before that. It actually goes back, I believe, to the 1800s. But, during every epoch, so every 10 years or 15 years, something happens, World War I, World War II, things are refined and re-agreed upon. But I was actually, when I started reading about it, I was like, damn, I think, I was actually surprised Trump he knows his shit, because I didn't know this. And he's got it all figured out. So Greenland really doesn't belong to anybody except the Danes, per se.
It's part of their kingdom.
That's it,
but
right?
they're an independently operating society.
Exactly, So where's that going to go? I don't know. I think he's playing a game of poker right now. He's pretty good at that game, right? So he's able to force people.
Oh yeah, there we go. 1951 agreement. It gives us military access to build and operate defense facilities. strategic importance, blah, 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 blah. What does that say? Okay, so we're allowed to have a military foothold there to counter Soviet threats, like the Thule base. It's maintained in Denmark's control. And then also, as far as their minerals, I was watching an interview with one of the ministers or ex-ministers of Greenland, or of Denmark, actually. And he was saying that we have, like, America has, like, the right to go exploit any resources we want in Greenland.
Yeah.
I mean, all we have to do is consult them.
That's right.
But like they're not going to do anything. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
You're going to send 2 dog sleds after us?
Right. Exactly.
I love
right.
that.
The only thing is, like, it's crazy that I think it's like 80% of that, of the land there is covered in an ice cap. So
yeah,
I don't know how hard that would be to extract those resources.
I don't think it'd be hard.
But I guess the Danes have, from what I understand, have been historically, like, one of our best friends. Like, they've helped us with everything, like, in all of these conflicts, going back to the Iraq War and Afghanistan and all that stuff.
You watch Trump Trump ain't dumb, man. You know, he's not dumb. And we're not going to invade Greenland. I know that's not going to happen. And I don't think we're going to really force anybody to do anything. He's just calling the bluff right now. But I think here's what's going to happen. I think he's one day going to look at Greenland and go, listen, guys, we don't want the country. Okay. In fact, we'll help you exploit all your minerals and stuff. You keep all the money, all the profits, right? We'll make you healthier, wealthier, right? We just want to know that we can control this, just like Puerto Rico, right? You just become one of our territories. You know, you still sovereign, do your own thing.
Yep.
You know, you make your own money. We'll even help you make money off this minerals, but we need this place to protect the West, you know, and you guys, by the way. You know? I think he'll work that out. He's not an idiot, man. He's not an idiot, and he's smarter than most people out there. And he's got an agenda, and he just basically, it's the art of the deal. He knows that. He goes, you never start with what you want right up front. You work your way into it, you know?
Yeah.
And, but I never thought about it either. I never thought about the strategic importance of Greenland until I started looking at the map. And going,
if he was to grab that territory, he would be the first president since, like, Thomas Jefferson to expand the United States territory to that degree.
Yeah.
Which 50 years from now, he'll be claimed as being the best president in history because he expanded the U.S. territory by that much.
Absolutely, man. You know, the guy's a genius, man.
He's definitely smart.
Yeah. It just, you know, the problem is people judge him by the mean tweets. They judge him by his ability to express himself. He's not a very good orator, not like Obama, right? Obviously not. Yeah. But he tells it like he sees it. He tells it like it is. He actually tells it the way I think it is. Like, you know what, the guy's saying what I believe, right? And so, for the most part.
Except for when it comes to the Epstein files.
Yeah. So, I'm still wondering about what's going on with that one, right? Why are we not talking about, I'm pretty sure he's not on it, but I have a feeling some key people probably are. And that might raise some eyebrows, right? Or maybe he's saving it for the next election, right? Maybe that's, you know, I don't know, man. Maybe
he's got some 4D chess he's pulling off right here. He's got something up his sleeve, maybe?
I think so. I think maybe I wouldn't be surprised before the election, all of a sudden the stuff starts coming out, right? Oh, why would you give it up now and let them have a chance to recover, right? And come up with a counter campaign later on. Hit them when they're trying to get their next guy elected, then pull it out, you know? I see that happening. The Epstein thing, look, I can think of worse things, you know, okay, guy had Island and, you know, had girls there. Look, dude, how many children get exploited every day in our country? And nobody's talking about that. Right. Nobody's talking about that. I got a great guy that you should interview one day on this topic. He's in the middle of it all, man. And it's just sickening that here in America, for example, well, let me start by saying this. Do you know what cartels, their biggest commodity is? It's not cocaine.
It's humans. Human trafficking.
Humans. And guess who's a part of it? Who's just the biggest player as the cartels? Americans. There are American families, middle-class families, upper-class families that are actually building safe houses and halfway houses for these kids. They're actually working with these cartels. They're taking money from them and farming these kids out. And it's a pretty big deal. And again, like I said, I've got a guy out after the show, I'll connect you with him. You definitely should have him on, because this will really piss you off, because he's been very deep into this counter child trafficking. He's been working on a lot of the counter narcotic stuff. Very interesting guy. But some of the stories he told me, I said, what happens to some of these kids? Like, okay, they grab a little girl, for example, a little blonde haired girl with blue eyes and about 4 years old is something like $150,000. She's like the top, like prime, right? I said, what happens to these girls? He goes, well, they get used. All kinds of things happen to them. And then usually what happens is at some point they usually commit suicide, or they're just they're disappeared, right? For who knows what purpose, right? I have a little personal knowledge on that with my wife. My wife was trafficked when she was 18, and actually was in Singapore when that happened to her. But
so I got huge over there, man.
I got an inside story.
China.
Yeah, and it's big, man, and it's like sick, man. Who does this kind of stuff, right? But nobody's talking about that. Everybody cares about who Epstein screwed.
Well, people want the politicians. They want to use Epstein as a political football,
right?
To push their narrative. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean? But I think the reality of it is, I think it's obvious that both sides are deeply compromised.
Absolutely.
There was the whole thing with Clinton that just missed his subpoena.
Yeah, right?
Did you see that?
Yeah, him and his wife.
Yeah. Just didn't show up. Then they were talking about it on the floor, how like we've been contacting their lawyers and they haven't showed up.
Yeah.
This is and I don't know, like they're trying to push it.
Yeah.
And trying to see what they can do. They're escalating it to see if they can get them to show up. But I mean, I don't know. You're never going to get a full
I don't think nothing's going to happen. Nothing's happened yet. All this talk, all this rhetoric, nothing's happening. I want to think that, towards the end, there'll be this big balloon event, right? And all the stuff will come out at once, But I'm doubting that's going to happen too.
No. I mean, it's like even he followed the Bongino stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Before he became the deputy director of the FBI, he's on every podcast talking about he was a Mossad asset. He was doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
All these people are compromised.
Yeah.
He was a child. As soon as he gets in, it's like they took the FBI neuralizer and like flashed him. It's like Epstein files.
Yeah.
There are no Epstein files.
Yeah.
They do not exist.
Yeah.
Him and Kash Patel.
I don't know, man. I'm at a loss, honestly.
It's obviously being covered up. I mean, it's clear.
Why? Who knows? But
to protect powerful people, man.
I just feel like, man, I've said this, and I'm starting to sound like a revolutionary. I know I am when I've been saying this lately, because I just had enough, man. I was on a couple of podcasts recently. I said, here's a problem, man. We just keep getting bullshitted and lied to, and my question is, where are the American men at? Why are we not standing up, pushing back, protecting our families, our wives, our children, our way of life? Why are we not saying enough's enough? And I don't care if it means go to arms,
Well, there's that Thomas Jefferson quote, that famous Thomas Jefferson quote, where he says every 150 years, the blood of the tyrants needs to be spilled on the tree of liberty.
Absolutely. And patriots, right? Unfortunately, it's going to be both, but you're right. And so we've been so brainwashed for a very long time, and men have been so emasculated in our country, right? So if you do anything that looks like manly, it's called toxic, right? And so a lot of guys are afraid.
I think that pendulum's shifting.
Maybe, but probably not fast enough, because it better shift really fast, like in the next 2 to 3 years, like swinging it way the other way. Otherwise, we're done. I think we're done. But we've engineered our own extinction in a lot of ways. We've allowed it to happen. We've allowed men to become emasculated. We're at a point now where, we think kids that can't even really speak yet should be able to pick their gender. The topic of abortion, that one there is like, what are we doing, man? As humans, what are we doing? And then the lying, right? So now if you tell the truth, you're the enemy, and if you're a liar, you're the victim. It's just everything is upside down, backwards, and it's really kind of hard even for a rational mind to get their head around it all.
I mean, there's a lot of prominent people out there that have been coming up, like, online commentators and young people that have been like, I mean, it's crazy. There's kids that are like in their teens and early 20s who are like, they know the whole political landscape, right? And they have a take on everything.
Yeah.
Every foreign government, every geopolitical involvement that we have, everything about our own politics here. Like, and there's people like Charlie Kirk and all those people who are coming up and sort of, I think have been a huge part of like swinging that pendulum and become independent voices, you know what I mean, in the independent media.
I think podcasts like yours, this is what helps, right? Yeah. Because you're literally juxtaposed to legacy media, right? They lie. They're owned, right? CNN, all these news agencies are owned, and they're all lying. They're telling you what somebody wants you to hear. You've probably heard of Operation Mockingbird, right? So, okay. That's a thing. It's a real thing, right? So it's the legacy media is a propagation arm, or propaganda arm.
But now podcasters and online folks are getting paid by foreign governments and to push narratives. And I sent you a video, Steve, of those guys. There's these dudes who are going into Gaza, getting paid to go in there, put on flat jackets. Here, put the headphones on so you can hear this. And they're wearing bulletproof vests and helmets to make it look like they're in a war zone. And they're literally getting paid thousands of dollars to do this.
Crazy.
Check this out.
Unbelievable.
So we have 8 minutes now.
If I were Israel, I wouldn't even provide matching socks to Gaza. But here's all the aid that y'all claim doesn't exist. Share this with a friend who continues blaming Israel for everything.
The hands of starving Palestinian children. 10 U.S. and Israeli influencers.
As you can see, there are thousands of crates of food that I don't know if you guys have ever seen. I'm here in Gaza, and all I see is food, water, and opportunity. But instead of Hamas distributing the ramen noodles, they're eating it all, and that's why their leaders are on Ozempic. This is exactly Hamas's plan. To paint Israel as the perpetrator of all of this. When in reality, it's Hamas that continues to use its own people as pawns.
So you have foreign countries doing damage control by paying United States influencers to go out and post these videos. How crazy is that?
Yeah, no surprise there, you know. Whoever, you know, it's fifth generation warfare. Whoever controls the narrative, you know, they're winning. And and that's what, and here's the other thing, right? So going to AI, how many times have you now looked at an AI video and asked yourself, is that real or is that AI?
Every day.
You can't tell them.
I think probably 80% of the stuff on my my Instagram feed is fake.
Right. And so here's another problem, right? So again, at what point, like I already distrust everything I read now. It's like, I don't know if that's AI, if somebody made some crap up, is it true or is it not true, right? And so now I distrust AI. And we're getting more of it. In fact, we're going to be overwhelmed. We're already getting overwhelmed with it, but you know, it's already starting to, you know, displace people. For example, I think 13% of the world population has already lost their jobs to AI. It's expected in the next 2 years, 80% will be jobless. Think about that. Now we'll be in an age where, and by the way, everybody calls it artificial intelligence. I don't believe it's artificial intelligence at all. There's nothing artificial about it. It's intelligence. When you have AI programs communicating and sharing code how to resurrect themselves in case this guy shuts me down. Here's how he turned me back on. When you have actually AI blackmailing those that are running the codes in the AI, going, hey, I got a picture of you with this chick, and I'm gonna send it to your wife if you turn me off. I mean, this is where we're at now. It's like, this is crazy. Is it really artificial? And I would argue, no, it's not. I think it's actual intelligence. Because I said earlier, everything's energy, frequency, vibration. Everything is energy, even our mind. And so, but the real problem is you'll no longer be able to discern the truth from even the videos, right? I've seen videos of me. It's like, damn, looks like me, sounds like me. But I don't know who that chick is.
But swear to God, that's not me.
I know, right? But no, I mean, think about that for a minute. It's like, how do we protect ourselves from that? They're not going to protect us from it. By the way, they thought they could put handrails in at some point, and now they're like,
who controls it?
It's like, forget
who's going to control it.
Who's going to control it? Exactly, right? It's only going to get worse. And then you're going to have these, you know, these monkeys in the basement on a computer figuring out code, and then before you know it, they're sabotaging things. Right. You know, they're feeding it. I don't want to sound like a nihilist, but I don't think the next 4 years is looking good at all. Looking really bad, you know, with AI and you know, I was telling a guy last night, I said, we're so focused on all the illegal immigrants coming to our country, which we should be, but nobody's talking about the AI, the impact AI is having on the economy, on jobs,
right,
on all those things, right? Now there's upsides to it. You know, there's a downside, but there's another upside. The other upside is, you know, with the advancement of AI, for example, it's predicted that if you're alive in the next 5 years, you could probably live to be 150. And there's
with
actually
health and medicine.
Yeah, there's actually experts out there coming out now, some top medical experts, physicists, and others that are saying now they believe that you could actually live forever, right? Because they've broke the code on how to extend telomeres and on and on and on.
Yeah.
So imagine that for a minute, living forever. And I've heard guys go, "Oh, I don't want to live forever," but there's another another theory that by 2050, you'll be able to upload your mind into a hard drive, right, or a computer, and literally live in perpetuity inside of a hard drive, right? So, and the question is, well, how is that even possible? Well, your energy, your mind is nothing more than, it's almost like a silicon computer, but it's a biological computer, quantum computer, many times, and it processes energy. It needs energy to create information and retain information, et cetera. So if you put that into a hard drive, imagine now with the advancement of robots, they're so daggone good and so realistic, might as well just about call them androids. Imagine you could take your hard drive with your mind in it and install it into a computer, I mean, to a robot.
Yeah.
And how long you could live forever, right? So
what is this? Google AI claims that by 2050, advancements in brain-computer interfaces, nanotechnology, and artificial intelligence are predicted to enable, at a minimum, a sophisticated partial integration into the human mind with digital systems. Well, yeah, I mean, our phones are basically already that, right?
Exactly.
It's an extension of us.
Now, you ever lose your phone, go, crap, where's my brain at?
Yeah,
because everything you know is in the phone, right?
Right.
I bet you money you probably don't know 1 or 2 phone numbers. Maybe I don't even know my wife's phone number.
Yeah.
If I didn't look at the phone, I wouldn't know how to call her, right?
Yeah.
So if I lose that, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
But
there are some people that look through this whole thing with rose-colored glasses, you know, like Elon Musk, that say that we're going to have like this high income, high universal basic income.
I don't think it's going to be a high. I mean, there's going to be a limit to it. And so we're back in the same problem, right? So, okay, everybody gets a universal income. Well, how much is that income going to be, right? And here's the problem. I assure you, it's not going to be a lot. But what will happen is everybody will end up in these 15-minute cities. But here's where the real problem lies.
Robot police.
Well, first of all, as men, right? How do we define ourselves? By our profession, our purpose, right? And if you don't have a purpose, you don't have a job, you don't have the ability to go out and provide and protect, it's kind of like you've been neutered. And I think most men, I know I would go crazy if I didn't have something to do. Like, you can only go to the beach so many times, you know, a 15-minute bus around the corner. At some point, I'm going to be climbing the walls. And that's going to do 2 things. One, it's going to either make me really crazy, and or it's going to make me probably do something really stupid, like, you know, maybe something that I shouldn't do, just to get that fulfillment that men need. I think there's a problem with that, and it sounds like, oh, you'll have all kinds of free time, you get to do this, you get to do that, but I don't know too many men that just want free time and not do anything. I'm about as free as it get, and I still need to be engaged, you know, and doing things.
Right, but it doesn't necessarily have to equate to free time. Like, if you had some sort of universal basic income where, like, say like everybody got 10 grand a month or whatever to cover all their basic expenses, like their rent, their housing, their food, their transportation, all that stuff, would it not just raise the tide in general and say, like, now you don't have to worry about the basic stuff. Now you can take all that energy and all of that motivation you have to do other things, right? To do the things that, instead of trying to spend time on worrying about taking care of your basic needs, now you can just try to raise the bar even more and do things that you're just really interested in or that you're passionate about.
I could see that point.
Because I mean, everyone compares themselves to everyone else. Like, we live in this, like, society is hierarchical, right? So you want to, like, you know where you fit into the economic landscape with it, whatever you do, based on how well you're performing compared to other people, right? That's how you kind of like get your idea. That's kind of like how you compare yourself. There's like a pecking order.
Yeah.
That's kind of like something that's baked into the human psyche.
Yeah.
So can't that still exist with something like that? Like, can't you just use that to raise the bar even more?
Well, yeah. So that's the question. What kind of bar are we talking about? Because if everything is provided, right, including all the basics, all you need, and where is the opportunity to grow or to invent or build or do more, right? Because you're competing against maybe 8 billion other people, right? And so everything that, normally would have required work no longer requires work because it's already handled by AI and robots. So what does that leave for, your own freedom of expression, your goals, your purpose? What's I don't know. Maybe we're not there yet, but maybe there will be what you just point out. Maybe there will be room for that. But right now, I can't see how that's even possible. And what I actually see is more trouble than anything, because if we're all living, we got that same equal amount, doesn't mean we're all going to get along.
No,
it's still going to go sideways, I think. And then the more time you have on your hands, how is the government going to pacify you? Well, maybe like the Romans, give you bread and circus, give you some crack cocaine and some alcohol and free porn, I don't know. How do you control 8 billion people that don't have a life per se, just hanging around? You can only watch so much TV, only can watch so much porn, you can only hang out at the beach so many times, right?
Right.
And at some point, guys like me are going to want to get on my airplane and travel again. And how do I get to do that if I have a universal basic salary? Where do I make more money so that I can go and travel to all the countries that I live in and I work in? You see what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I just don't see it going well. I just don't, especially with AI as the way it can be
what
weaponized.
Scares me the most is the question of how much are we going to have to comply to maintain that universal basic income? Like, what if they start implementing rules saying you can't post this on social media or you lose your $10,000 a month?
That's the problem.
Right. And a lot of people are going to comply to that.
Yep.
Right. Especially the 99% of the world who will have to have that just to survive and aren't going to be able to push the boundaries even farther and try to build like real wealth on top of that, to where that's the basic income is irrelevant now.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, because in order to maintain social harmony, you're going to have control. And so how do you control people? Well, if you're giving them money, you can control how much you give them, right? And what they can do with it, right? So we're back in the same dilemma, right? With, digital currency and what you see going on kind of right now in China a little bit. Once this happens, you no longer have sovereignty anymore. You're relying on somebody in the government to make right choices for you, because you made a choice and they don't like your choice, so they're going to punish you for your choice, and suddenly they're controlling your life. You're really no longer in control of it. And this is my point about men. Our sovereignty is gone. Our purpose, our ability to provide and protect is out the window. That's what makes us who we are. The reality is men are driven by purpose, by being able to provide and protect. That's our purpose in life. And when you take that from us, have you ever seen the study on Mousetopia? Right?
Yeah.
Classic example. Look what happened. Freaking, they're all dead. They were living in heaven, and then they created hell, and they're all dead. Yeah. And even the mice, the male mice, didn't want to have sex anymore. And the female mice were like OnlyFans fuck mice. And they didn't want to have sex either. They just wanted the damn money and look good. I don't think it's going to go well for human nature. I think we've engineered our own extinction. I keep saying that, but I really do. And I don't think we have that much time, because AI is moving so fast, man. It's moving incredibly fast. And when they're talking about in 2 years, a universal income, that's right around the corner. That's not far away at all. What could change that? I don't think anything's going to change that. I think we're too far down the road, man. I mean, how do you hit the brakes on AI. How do you stop this? The Chinese aren't going to stop doing what they're doing. The Russians aren't going to stop.
Right.
We're not going to stop. I think Trump already said, pull all the plugs, go for it, do all you can with AI. I mean, he knows we can't put limiters on ourselves if the Chinese and the Russians and everybody else is not, right? So in order for us to stay competitive and protect ourselves from these people, we're going to have to just go full bore on this thing. And where does that road take us?
Right.
I don't know, man. So I tell my friends, I tell everybody I talk to, enjoy every day like it's your last, because it could very well be. And hope for the best. But in the meantime, focus on taking care of yourself, be the best version of yourself, and prepare yourself so you have a chance if that day ever comes, which I think it will. But
about a year ago, I got a text for an unpaid traffic toll. But when I paid it, it turned out to be a scam. That wouldn't have happened if I was using Cash App. That's because they stress transfers with trusted individuals, which is why I use Cash App. Your security deserves to be a priority, and Cash App treats it that way. With Security Lock, Cash App requires a successful Face ID or biometric authentication to access your account. It's like your money is protected by your own personal bodyguard, even if your phone is stolen or lost. Plus, if you're about to send money to somebody new and Cash App notices something looks a bit off, or that you might be falling for a scam, it will send you a warning before the money is sent to confirm that everything looks okay. Turn on Security Lock in your Cash App settings today and pay attention to scam warnings to keep your money safe. Learn more at cash.app/security. Moving your money should be simple, but it also should be safe. And that's why I like using Cash App. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use the code SECURE10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Discounts and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures.
How will it get started? I think we're already started. We're already in World War III. You got AI going on. You see all the strife in our country. It's just a big tinderbox right now. And as much faith I have in Donald Trump, I don't think he's going to be able to stop it. I think it's just gone too far. And talking to some of my friends that are in this circle, I don't want to drop names or nothing like that, but they're telling me that even within the perimeter, man, this guy's got to watch his back because he's got rhinos. He's got
who? Confederates,
Trump, and others in a circle that they're willing to cut his throat in a minute. They're actively working against him. The guy's got his hands full, and I wish him the best because we all really need his best. Because if somehow this gets flipped back to the Democrats, man, we're done.
Well, it does seem odd that he's doing a lot of the things the opposite of what he campaigned for, right? Like all the wars, like he campaigned to just end all the wars, release the Epstein files, no Epstein files, more wars, like the Venezuela thing. I know a lot of people like to say like the Venezuela thing was smart. It made sense. Nothing went wrong. It seemed like a very quick, effective, tactical mission to get the guy out of there. Then you have people on the other side saying like, well, what difference is that going to make? They didn't all they did was decapitate the regime. It's still the same regime in place. It's just the vice president now. Nothing's going to change there. And then, then you have the whole Iran thing, the bombing Iran. It looks like any day they're going to bomb Iran again. The Greenland thing, it's just like, I don't know what to make of it. And there seems like a lot of people there's people that are kind of like pragmatic about all of this who can look at it like separated from being attached to it. People like to like wrap their whole identity and put their political ideology. And then you have like people who will just change their opinion on whatever Trump does. Like, well, I think it's good that he did that no matter what he does. Like he could do nothing bad.
I think the Venezuela thing, I wouldn't call it a war.
No.
But it was combat action, okay, and that could have turned into something uglier. But I think he's actually got a control of it. I don't think it's gonna go our way. What's the name? Delsey, the vice president. She's actually very pro-American, and she's got to do her maneuvers just to keep a safe face. But I think that's in the bag. And probably a good thing because we kept the Chinese and the Russians away. Now Trump's looking at Greenland. That's all. It's not a new phenomenon. It's been a phenomenon for a long time, and he just decided that I think the other reason he's doing it is just the fact that he just showed the Chinese and the Russians, I just beat all your air defense systems, and there's nothing you could do about it. They've got to go back and spend more money on their war machine. Like, oh shit, how far ahead are the Americans, right? And so they're going to have to put more money that they don't have into building up their war stocks, their war machine, right? Their troffers. They're running dry. And I think this is Trump's playing chess, and I think also with NATO, he's playing a game with them too, going, look, you know what, dude, you've been riding our coattails. You haven't been paying your fair share. We've been protecting your ass. And now, you know, we want to protect everybody's ass. And so this is what we need, and it's time to pony up. So what did they do? They said, what, 40 dudes, like the Europeans, the Russians, the Germans, and look, you know, we got forces on the ground, 40 dudes. It lasted 2 days, and they left already, right? So
Where?
The Greenland.
Oh.
Yeah, right? So.
They already left?
Yeah. I think they left those today, right?
Wow, I didn't
40
see.
dudes. What are you going to do with 40 dudes, right?
See if you can find something on that, Steve.
Right. But I think what he's doing is playing chess, and he's pointing out everybody's hypocrisy. But more importantly, I think what he's doing is forcing people to start putting money into their defense, and they're not going to be able to defend themselves. They're not going to be able to defend Greenland. So I think he's saying, hey, we'll do it. But he's not dumb enough to take it. He's going to make concessions for Greenland. It's going to work out good for them. It's going to work out for the Europeans as well. And it'll definitely work out for the Americans, you know, along with Venezuela. So I don't see him as the war president, but I do see where he needs to. Sometimes you just got to do things. It's not very popular. Maybe it does seem to contradict what you ran on. But I really don't believe he's interested in starting a prolonged war with anybody. I think he's just interested in manipulating people to get what we as Americans need and want for our own protection.
No, look at not U.S. forces, NATO forces. See what the status is on NATO forces going to Greenland.
Yeah, they send like a handful of guys over to each country. Oh, we got this.
Right. Yeah, recent short-term NATO deployments, specifically German troops for a recon mission, have concluded and left Greenland, but NATO forces haven't permanently departed. The alliance remains engaged in Arctic security with Denmark and Greenland. The ongoing U.S. presence at the Thule Air Base. The German troops left quickly after their publicized Arctic endurance exercise in mid-January. Framing it as a routine, brief deployment despite speculation.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just an attempt at a show of force, which is pretty weak, right?
Yeah.
Like, we got this. We're 40 of us. We got this.
Yeah.
Right. So the 2 Germans left, now they're down at 38. But yeah, I think, like I said, I think he's playing chess. And, you know, we don't know what we don't know. So we'll see in time where this goes. But
I wanted to ask you also to switch gears a little bit. I've been waiting to get you in here to get your take on this. Somebody like you with such high-level training and who's been involved in all kinds of crazy military operations, what your take is on this whole ICE debacle with the ICE recently killing that girl. I mean, it seems everybody I talk to, everybody online, their opinions strictly align with their political beliefs. Everyone just brings all their political baggage to this thing, and no one can look at it through like an objective lens. Yeah. I'm sure you've seen the videos.
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
What's your take on all that?
Well, you know, when you look at all the evidence, right? So it's not just some chick was in the car and wanted to leave and got shot. It's not how it actually started. It started earlier in the day with her actually chasing ICE agents around town, interfering with their operations, putting her car between them. She was interfering, physically interfering, her and her whatever girlfriend, whatever this chick was, right? Call her wife, but anyways. But if you look at all the footage, especially from the front, you know, everybody says, well, you know, a police officer shouldn't put himself in front of a vehicle.
Right.
Well, what about if a police officer is walking around the front of a vehicle to get to the other side? Okay, which is exactly what he was doing as he was filming. She turned the wheels, backed it up, and then turned it to the right and got on the gas, and it clearly shows where she hits the guy, and he drew the weapon and he shot her in the face. Do I think he was right? Absolutely, because that 4,000-pound vehicle will kill you just as dead as a gun. And when we start, and I think, honestly, I think ICE and law enforcement has tolerated too much from too many people. And people have come to expect that cops shouldn't do anything, when in fact, I think they should. So I don't think he was wrong. He took one or two shots, obviously killed her. She tried to run him over with the car.
You think she was trying to run him over?
Whether she was not, she wasn't compliant, and she was using her vehicle to get away, which is.
I think she was trying to peel out of there.
Yeah, but nonetheless, you got a guy standing in front of the vehicle, and you're going to give it gas. A law enforcement officer after he was told to get out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, no matter what the situation is, if you're being detained by law enforcement, it's not a good move to try to fucking step on the gas and fucking run.
If you tell you get out of the car, get out of the car.
It's not a smart move.
Comply. But everybody's just gotten too comfortable with being disrespectful. They all think they're lawyers. They think they know the law better than the cops do, and they try to evoke their emotion with all this stuff rather than, logic. Yeah, that guy was standing in front of the vehicle. He was moving around as he was filming it when she gave the vehicle gas. Now, I got to admit, he's a pretty fast draw. That was a quick draw to get that gun out and take that shot.
Yeah.
But he got it done.
And also, he was pretty close to, like, the other guy was like pretty close to that. Like, if he could admit, that guy was probably, his head probably would have been 5 feet to the right of her head.
Yeah.
Not even.
But, if people would just, let law enforcement do their job.
I wonder how much this is really doing, right? Like, all these ICE agents that are out here, you see the videos of them every day. There's so many videos of these guys doing crazy stuff, like frisking people, like American citizens and all that stuff. And I've seen reports from Biden. I've seen reports. Trump said Biden let in 10 million immigrants. I've seen reports up to 30 million that Biden let in. And so far, these guys have gotten like 100,000 people that they've deported. Like they're not even going to put a fucking dent.
Well, they're going after what they know are guys that are actually criminals, right? So they have a criminal record. That's who they're actually targeting. They're not targeting everybody, just the criminals. But I also know that they're getting ready to.
Is that the guy right there in the front of the car? That's the guy that shot her.
Yeah,
the guy who's like angled.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the car did strike him.
Oh yeah, it did.
Yeah, he
actually gave him some
into it.
internal injuries too.
Wow.
Where is it? There's the action.
Yeah, it feels to me like I don't know. It feels to me like they could have like a much more effective way of dealing with like the actual criminals, right? Like then just this seems like theater to me.
Well, let me ask you this: so, what would be the effective way?
I have no fucking
That's
clue.
my point, right?
I'm not smart enough.
At the end of the day, like I said earlier, it comes down to the man on the ground with a gun, because no technology is going to capture these guys. You've got to go and get them, because they're going to run away, they're going to hide, they're going to do things, right? So you've actually got to go physically grab them. That's what they're doing here. They're not grabbing grandma that came over the border, with her grandkids for freedom. They're going after hardcore criminals.
Yeah, but they are like arresting and zip tying grandmas and like children, like 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
And people who have been here for decades that have not been violent or just trying to work. Like they have gotten a lot of those types of people.
Yeah. So how else do you do it, right? So you can do nothing. And here's what happens when you do nothing. These guys are going to keep cheating like they have been, right? Because the whole reason Biden let these people in, he was trying to bolster the Democratic vote. That's what he's hoping on.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
That's the only reason they're doing it, and to create this disruption. But here we are now. So now we got all these people came to our country that illegally. And what do we do with these people? Because if we let them stay, most of them are going to vote Democrat. That means this country will be a Democrat country forever, a socialist Democrat country. Moreover, they're basically bleeding our welfare systems. They're getting money. They're getting our tax money, right? And I have a real problem with that, because why are we giving my tax money to send some other guys' kids to college, to feed them, put them in a nice house, all these things that they've been getting, and that's my tax money, but I don't even get to spend that kind of money on my own children. And why are we doing this? So I've got a real hard on with all of this. especially the way the money's being dispersed. The Somalis, all the damn money they have stolen, and that's just sounds like it's the tip of the iceberg. This is our money, by the way, and although maybe they're not reaching right in my pocket and taking out, I'm still paying a lot of taxes every month because it's kind of crap. And so there's the problem. Moreover, I don't have a problem with immigrants. My wife is my wife is an immigrant. My son, my mother. I come from a family of immigrants, but they did it right, and there's no problem with that. It's when people come over here and you bring the criminals in, and people are getting killed and murdered and kidnapped, and you see all the crap that's going on. That's where I have the problem. But how do you fix it, right? So. I think this is the way. Get the worst of the worst out first. Put everybody on notice, and sometimes I think it's there's no argument against having no good argument I've ever heard against having a strong border. I think that's something that we need, and getting rid of like the criminals and the gang violence and all that kind of stuff, the cartels, all that crap needs to be taken care of. Well, try that in a foreign country. For example, go to Indonesia and overstay your visa. They will come looking for you. They will find you. And they will grab you right there in your flip-flops and your Bermuda short and put you on the first thing smoking, and you'll never come back. They don't play. The rest of the world doesn't play this game. We're the only ones playing this stupid game. You can't go to any other country and think that, they're going to accept me. No, they don't accept you, especially in Asia, man. You'll always be an outsider. And if you show up as an outsider and you're not there legally and you're doing things that are questionable. Like, for example, there was two girls, black girls from California not too long ago, a couple years ago. And now, I don't know why I thought they were conservatives, but they were inviting all their friends to come to Bali because it's so inexpensive here and you can do what you want and blah, 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 And anyways, that was on social media, and literally these two girls were walking down the street one day in their flip-flops and shorts and got rolled up and got deported. Wow. Like, do not invite your ilk and your LGBTQ community to come here thinking everything's free and you can do what you want to do, type of thing. They had zero tolerance for that kind of stuff.
Right.
We're the only ones that, and I don't think we tolerate it. People in this country tolerate it, but I don't think everybody tolerates it. I don't want to tolerate it.
There's so much. It's that. Look at all the poverty. Look at you can't walk through Washington, D.C. into the Capitol building without stepping over a homeless fucking veteran. Yeah. People with needles hanging out of their arms. There's so much goddamn poverty in the inner cities in this place, but yet we just expanded the defense budget by $1.5 trillion for defense, like for all these crazy wars and all of this military spending and stuff like that, when there's so many problems here. Talk about taxpayer dollars. Like, we can't choose where our tax money goes. Right. It seems like we have absolutely no fucking say. It seems like we're living on there's three different planes at least of existence when it comes to this world. Like us, normal, everyday people. Then there's the government, whatever you want to call them, these like people who, walk around in Congress and elected politicians who virtue signal to their side and take money for this, money for that, who are basically cheerleaders for the president, whoever side they're on. And, then you have like the military, who they're going to do whatever the fuck they want to do, right? Whatever they think is in their best interest, that's going to assure their longevity in their position. It's not like they're not consulting the citizens on what they really want. They're just going to they're going to try to get into power via whatever means possible to do whatever the fuck they want. Yeah. Like they're completely isolated.
Well, a good example is this knucklehead Mandami in New York, mayor, right? He ran on all these promises, and after he got elected, okay, I guess we can't do all those things that we want to do, like no free buses, no free grocery stores, it was all just to get there, right? And then he's like, in order for all this stuff to happen, you guys are gonna have to give me more tax money, right? It's always the game. But here's the problem I have with taxes now, more than ever. I used to pay my taxes like a good little American until I started, for example, the whole Doge thing. When I saw that we spent, I think, was it $5 million or 50 million? We sent Mozambique to circumcise African men.
Yeah.
How does that benefit me and my family?
The State Department was blowing so much goddamn money.
Yeah. So well, why cutting off some guy's pecker? How's that help me as an American and my children, right? All this crap this money was going to, this is taxpayer money, right? And so you're going to squander my money on shit like that.
Right.
Don't expect me to pay taxes.
Just hiding it.
I'm just going to keep hiding it now, even more so. And I think Trump will be smart just to do a flat tax because a lot of people are going to, like me, it's like, you know what? I'm hiding my money because you're not taking my money and cutting off some guy's pecker with it because whatever, it makes somebody else feel good. Not doing that stuff, you know? And you mentioned.
And what about all the money missing from the Pentagon too? From the Pentagon hasn't passed an audit in how long?
Exactly. Now, all that money everywhere, right? So who is controlling all this
think
money?
about this. Put the shoe in the other foot. Imagine you're in charge of the government. You're in charge of the military, right? And you have to make sure that the United States is the top dog no matter what, which means we have to develop a secret military. We have to develop secret weapons, crazy weapons that no one's ever heard of, but it has to remain secret or else we're not going to be able to be dominant, which means we can't report it to Congress.
Yeah. Well, there is some of that, right? I know that. Because you're right. Some things just can't be disclosed because it would be an operational security problem. But and I get that part of it. But you mentioned, spend a lot of money on defense. And when you brought up the fentanyl thing, I had a flashback. So I was working in San Francisco for a couple months during COVID, actually 6 months, right? They had a big problem there, and I guess they still do. But the problem is getting less because all the stores are closing now because there was a big problem. As you remember, people going and smashing and grabbing and stealing everything. You could steal up to $950 worth of stuff before it's even a felony. Cops weren't arresting anybody because they were told not to. I know because I worked with them.
People there were literally leaving their cars unlocked on the side of the road just so their windows wouldn't get smashed because they knew somebody was going to go in their car. Yeah,
it was the most. I've never seen anything like that. On an average day, I would watch about 70 shoplifting incidents in one day at one department store, right? And I wasn't even sure what my purpose was. I thought my job was to come there and protect the employees because they're getting the crap beat out of them, or maybe to help mitigate the theft. But actually, I was just there to be a scarecrow, was what I found out later on. They wouldn't let me do anything, like not even help an employee. I'm like, what am I doing here, right? And so then I found out what they were doing. So again, I won't mention the store's name. I should, but it's not just that store. It's a lot of stores. What they do is, so somebody comes in and, right away what we do is, I hate to say profiling, we have people that their job is to profile people that come in, and they're pretty good at it, right? They're usually young kids. They go, yeah, that guy's probably going to steal. Yeah, she's probably going to steal. Then they follow them around. They watch them steal stuff, and then they take note of how much stuff they stole, the quantity, the amount. And then they'll tell the person, hey, you're going to pay for that, right? And then the person will go, no. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. And then they walk out the store with it because you can't do anything because cops aren't going to arrest them. And even if it's $950 worth of stuff, nothing's going to happen, right? So what happens is, then they turn this ticket in and they go, yeah, this person stole, $300 worth of shoes, right? And then what they do is they turn around and give that ticket to the insurance company. And the insurance company has to pay because, look, we're doing everything we can. Look, we got this guy over here, looks like a ninja, and he can't stop him. They don't tell them that I'm not doing nothing because they won't let me. They actually threaten to fire me if I did do anything other than just stand there. I made a lot of money just standing there like a scarecrow. Like, are you kidding me? You pay me all this money? They were paying the cops even more. They were paying the cops $1,200 a day just to sit there. I had to stand. They got to sit, right? And they were deputizing me to go act on their behalf because they didn't want to get fired, right? And that's how crazy it was getting, right? Man. And so, but where I was going with this thing was every 10 feet you had somebody on fentanyl. And they all do that fentanyl hunch, where they bend over at the waist and their arms are hanging, dangling, and their snot's drooling out of their mouth and their nose all over the floor, and they're not even moving. I'm just like, I don't even know how they can stand like that without falling over. And they'll stay there for like 30 minutes, totally catatonic on fentanyl, right? Everywhere. There were bodies everywhere. I knew this one girl, she was a security officer, but she was armed. Every night she had to patrol 4th Street and Market Street, and she would show me pictures the next day of dead bodies on the road. They would come, it was like every night I had to go to a sweep and pick up dead bodies, right? I had a dude get stabbed to death right in front of my hotel. Never made the news, right? They don't want to talk about stuff like that. They want you to think San Francisco was perfect.
Right.
Now, I haven't been there since COVID, so I don't know what it looks like now, but I imagine it's probably not much different. Yeah. But the problem was I saw so much fentanyl, and it's so dangerous. I was carrying Narcan with me. The cops gave me Narcan. I said, dude, if you touch somebody that's got fentanyl, you get some of that on your finger, you're going to go down. I've actually helped guys that went down with fentanyl poison. I mean, they're out, and you hit them with Narcan to bring them back. But so I look at it like this. Over 100,000 people die every year from fentanyl. Where's it coming from? It's coming actually from the Chinese through Central South America.
Yep.
And I happen to be working on another project.
Into Mexico, directly into Mexico.
Yeah, and I'm actually working on a project right now related to that with, I got to watch how I say this again, but again, it's in front of people in government, but this is a real thing. This is literally warfare, and they're using fentanyl to take out Americans and do what they've been doing to us. So when I look at funding, I'm hoping that Trump is putting money towards the counter-narcotics operations. Hey, let's sink more of those damn boats, Let's go get Venezuela, because they're killing Americans, innocents. And I know Americans that are not here anymore that died from fentanyl, just from, just casual exposure to it. They touched somebody that had it, or they went down, they went to go help them, and then, what the hell? It happens pretty fast too, by the way. It'll induce a heart attack right away. Good news is Narcan will reverse it quickly if you have it with you, right? So I look at it from that standpoint. We are in a war. We are in World War III. It's fifth generation warfare as well. And, don't expect to see bullets flying and missiles, not anytime soon, because we're already there. And it's a war of will. It's a war of information, and whoever wins that information warfare is gonna rule. And this is where we're competing with AI and all the things that are going on right now. And so for the average person, it's wondering, well, what about me? Well, here's what I got to say about you. You're on your own. Nobody's coming. Nobody's coming. Nobody's coming to help you. Nobody. Honestly, if you think the government cares about you, they don't. They really don't. Because you know what? Who is the government? It's a bunch of weak men and aggressive women up there dictating policy, making decisions, not for your benefit, but for their benefit. At the end of the day, it's just for them. And I hate to sound so anti-government, because I wasn't always like this. But I guess with age comes experience. When I'm almost 63 years old, and I look back and I'm like, man, did I do some good things? Yes. Did I do some bad things? Now that I think about it, there's some things I was involved in and I do regret, like, for example, Mogadishu, right? So,
what?
Well, we got a lot of dead Americans and nothing to show for it, because why? Politics.
What was that? What was that thing you said?
Mogadishu.
What is that?
Remember Black Hawk Down?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we had a mission and got a bloody nose. Wasn't over, but Bill Clinton, because of his politics and the view of that decision, he decided to pull us out. So, we lost 5 Delta Force operators. One of them used to be on my team, and then we lost a bunch of Rangers. I think 18 total KIA plus 77, I think, WIAs. And to what end? What did we get out of that? Nothing, right? Now you look at Kabul. All right, 20 years, big war, and we walk away and give them $82 billion worth of equipment, and we lose.
Right.
What did we win? What did we gain? Nothing. We killed a lot of Americans. And not just American, but NATO, soldiers, to what end? And when I look at stuff like that, I'm like, it's not the soldier's fault. The soldier did his job. As a military, we kick ass. We've always kicked ass. It's the politics that loses the war force, particularly the politicians. And so I look back at Mogadishu, I look back at Bagram with huge regret, And I remember one of the reasons I left Afghanistan. So I spent almost 10 years going back and forth between Afghanistan, Iraq, and a few other countries. But I've got over 2 years alone just in Afghanistan. And I remember circa 2010, but 2010, almost 2011, I got another ambush. And I call it my final ambush. But basically what happened was, I remember thinking to myself, if I get out of this one, that's it. I'm not doing no more, right? Because this one looked almost impossible to get out of. They got us pretty good. And we did get out of it. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to keep my promise to myself. At the time, I think I was 47 or 48. So it's time to hang up your guns, go home, be with your family, and not. But more, what really drove that decision more than anything was when I looked around at the state of the war and I looked at the state of the military at the time and the attitudes, I started to realize good men are dying for nothing, man. Why? Because there were operations I wanted to do. And I'll give you a good example, right? So I had this idea. So all the bad guys would always hide, especially the leadership. They would run to Pakistan. They'd come over to Afghanistan, or maybe they're already in Afghanistan. They would set up a VBID or an IED and kill a bunch of Americans and run away, right? That's how they were winning, right? Those type hit and run tactics. And I had an idea one day. I was like, you know what? What if I basically built a little monster garage, right? And I get me some trucks, the same trucks they use are Hilux pickup trucks, for hauling goats and stuff like that. And I turn them into VBIDs. I'm really good at building bombs, right? And I said I could make a VBID out of one of these vehicles.
What's VBID mean?
A vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, right? So car bomb, right? So what I was going to do is take these trucks and build them so they were basically full of explosives, but they look like they're hauling goats, and then strategically warehouse them and then place them in front of, a bad guy's house, leader, for example. And when he comes out to check his mailbox in the morning, set the car off on him, right? So, and that would have been easy to do. And what I was implying with that was, let's stop moving to ambush. Let's stop rolling down the road, get ambushed, fighting out of a vehicle, and then they run away. I said, what we need to do is go unconventional and
play their game.
Play their game, right? And so I put the whole concept together. I sent it up to the decision makers, and then they came back with all kinds of red X's on it and said something to the effect like, we're not in the business of making VBIDs, right? Like, that's a bad thing. I'm like, well, they're doing it. Why don't we do it to them, right? So I changed the request from I forget, I think I did call them VBIDs, but I changed them to WEDs, Wheeled Explosive Delivery System, right? I just made up a word, WEDs, right? I said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean VBIDs, I meant WEDs, Wheeled Explosive Delivery Systems. We'll make WED systems, right? So we'll preposition them, right? And they came unhinged over that shit. I'm like, are you guys interested in winning this war or not? Because fighting an unconventional force with conventional forces doesn't work. You should see that. It's happening every day, right? I said, the only way you win is you go unconventional on these guys. You become the boogeyman they're afraid of in the night, right? And that's when I realized they're not interested in winning this war. Nobody's caring about winning. This war could have been over so long ago, but it's not. Why? Because people are making money.
Right.
It's all the bad shit that goes along with it. There's no reason we should have been there for 20 years. That thing could have been over in 20 months or faster. If people just, slip the reins, slip the leads off the dogs and let them go, man, But we don't do that stuff. Why? Because opinions and blah, 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 and can't hurt the bad man, because if you hurt the bad man won't be nice to the good man. Like, come on. Like the interrogations, right? You can't interrogate. You can't arrest someone and make him a prisoner. He's got to be a detainee, and you got to give him all his rights, and you can't be mean to him. You can't say mean things to him. Like, are you kidding me? Is this where we're at?
Right.
That's the crazy part, man. That's the craziest part. The other thing they did, I'll just throw this out real quick little point, is when McCain came out and said, interrogations don't work, blah, blah, blah. And then everybody got behind that. Yeah, they don't work, so no more interrogations. Then what was happening was we'd go out, and usually we rolled up bad guys. We didn't try to kill them all, right? Because they got information in their head we might be able to use, right? So that was really the mission, was to grab these guys, interview them, whatever you want to call it, right?
A little bit of enhanced interrogation.
Yeah, well, honestly, it didn't take much of that.
Right.
I mean, there's just them being afraid that they might get hurt. They would sing like a canary, right? So,
the crazy thing about that is, like, if you're going to do it, like, just do it. Don't try to, like, hide the fact or, like, go around laws. Like, the problem was that they literally, like, made this crazy law where it's illegal to do it, but we're going to do it secretly anyways, and no one can talk about it.
Yeah, right. And so
just change the law.
Yeah, it makes no sense, right? We were catching guys, and the first question they would always ask us is, are you arresting me as a terrorist, or are you arresting me as a criminal, right? Because they were hoping you said terrorist, because if you said terrorist, that means we're going to take them back to our facility. They're going to get locked up for 3 days, bed, breakfast. They're going to get taken care of. Nobody's going to yell at them. We'll say nice things to them, right? And all they got to do is shut their mouth for 3 days, and we got to let them go with all their stuff, right? But if you're going to arrest them as a criminal, that means you're handing them over to ANP, Afghan National Police, right? That's a different story. That's going to be bad. It's going to get really ugly. So they were always hoping you'd get them as a terrorist because, and I don't know how many times I've arrested the same guy over and over, you know? And
Really?
it was almost like they're like, hey, how's it going again? And I'm like, you again? Again? That's the last time, right? So, you know, and that's what it's turned into. It turned into a joke is what it turned into. And people should just let war fighters fight. Let them do their job, and things will be resolved really quick. Leave the politics out of it, you know. Right. But we didn't do that there either. And so my regrets are some of the things that did happen, some of the things that didn't happen. And unfortunately, you know, what do you do about it? We live in this world. There's nowhere to escape it. No matter where you go, you can't escape it. Right?
I mean, a great example of this is Billy Waugh, who was tracking bin Laden and literally taking photos of bin Laden like across the street from where he was.
Yeah.
I don't remember what year this was, but this was probably a couple of years leading up to 9/11, before 9/11 happened. And he went to, I think, one of the top dudes at the CIA and trying to get permission to take him out. He said he could have easily killed him. Yeah. And they wouldn't let him do it.
Yeah. Interesting, right?
Why?
Well, I had a similar situation. So I was at a camp and all my guys were no longer operational. They had to stand down before I got there. And I'm like, why? Well, because they had a problem, had an uprising in the ranks, right? And then I determined it wasn't the guys, it was the handlers before me that came in, right? They weren't doing their job. And long story short, my guys had to be retrained and recertified, and that's why I was there. And one day we get a call that right down the road, about a kilometer away maybe, was the guy that shot down, was it Turbine 33, the CH-47. He shot it down with a RPG, and he killed a bunch of Americans on board. And he was only like 21 years old, young guy. And he was the guy, he was, I think, the second or third most wanted man in Afghanistan at that point. And we got intel that he's right down the road visiting somebody right now. And I'm like, dude, listen, let me go get him. Right now, I'll go get him. And they're like, no. And they called up top and came back and no. I said, look, no, you guys aren't ready. I said, who said they're not ready? I'm the decision. I make the decision. They're ready. No. They got to be evaluated. Stupid stuff, right? Like, are you kidding me? I said, I tell you what, you guys are paying me a lot of money to be here and do this job, right? I'm not just doing this job. I said, I'll go myself. You just say, yes, okay. I said, I'll go get him myself. Just tell me where he's at and I'll go get him myself. Oh, no. They didn't want to do it. It's like, we're going to let this guy get away? He's right here. Mm-hmm. You know, it was that kind of nonsense. And, man, there's stuff. There's stories. If I told you here right now, people would lose their shit in America. There's stuff that is like
classified shit.
Yeah, it's pretty much classified. It's stuff that, you know, will get me locked up. It's going to piss a lot of people off. But, you know, we have done things. I say certain people have done things that are just egregious, man. It just proved to me again, these guys have no interest in winning this war. All they want to do is drag it out. Somebody's profiting off this, making money off of this. Mm-hmm. And men and women are dying for no reason. So would I do it all again? That's the question. Sometimes, and the answer is yes. I just wish I was smarter when I was doing it next time, so I could be a little bit more aware of what's really going on and how I'm being manipulated, so I can make better choices, you know. And not saying it was all bad. Most of it was good, but you know, again, we're just this cog in this really big wheel, and what are you going to do, man? You know, I can't escape it. I live in a foreign country. I live in several foreign countries, and there's still no escape because I'm still beholden to another foreign government and their police and their laws and all their stuff that goes with it. I've been to over 101 countries in my life, worked there, lived there, traveled there, and I have yet to find one place where I could say, you know what, here, you're truly free and you don't have to worry about nothing. There's no place like that. I can't find one place like it. That's concerning, right? So,
to say the least.
We're all in this one big ass cage, man. You know, big mouse utopia, and we're all gonna die. We will eventually somehow.
Have you ever had conversations like this with Billy Waugh?
No, actually, I've never really had a chance to sit down and speak much with him. Like you said, no, he's always on the go.
How did you meet him?
He was assigned to me. Yeah, he just gives me I get a phone call one day, and hey, it's me, and blah, 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 and tomorrow morning I need you to do this, and I need you to meet me here, and okay. And that's how I know him. Yeah, that's how I got to know him.
Were you aware of who he was?
Yeah. I was actually shocked too, and I was like, really? Billy Waugh, you still around?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was up there, man, in age, but
He's a fucking legend.
yeah, he's still out there doing it, man. Yeah.
Yeah. He died what in like 2 years ago?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, a couple years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember like everybody was flying in from all around the country for that.
Yeah. He's definitely a legend, man. We need more of those, you know. But
so are you allowed to talk about any of the stuff that you did? Like, wait, so he was your quote unquote handler?
yeah, basically when I say a handler, you know,
CIA.
yeah, it's kind of so a handler is not necessarily a misnomer, but his job was help facilitate or enable, right?
Right.
Hey, I need to go do this. Where do I find it? Here you go do that. Or he comes down with instruction. Hey, you need to go do this or be here at this time. Okay. But not a lot of interaction.
No.
And there came a point where really I didn't have to ask anybody for anything. They just call me and tell me what I need to know if I need to know it. And if I need to know something, I'd call them and they'd tell me. But it was pretty...
Just tell you what? Like, what were the instructions?
If I want to go to work, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
right.
I need to go to work. Got anything open? Yep. Okay. When do I want me to report? A couple days. Okay. You know, or hey, you need to go to work? I think I'm taking another month off. Okay. Call me in a month. It was that simple. Everything was that simple. It was a different world when I was, working there.
Do you remember the first time you met him in face to face?
Yeah, it was actually at my hotel when he came by my hotel.
Really?
Yeah, the first time I met him.
In the U.S.?
Yeah. So, and then I saw him downrange a few times, but it's kind of funny, man. You run into a lot of people in the war that you hadn't seen in years and years and years. Like I ran into my platoon leader from the 82nd when he was a first lieutenant back in 1983, and I'm downrange in 2010, I think, and there he is in a long trench coat and a cowboy hat. It's kind of eerie.
Wow.
But he used to be my lieutenant, much older guy now. But yeah, I met a lot of guys down there. And I've met people that I don't know that knew me from the craziest part. I was out one location out in the middle of nowhere in the desert, and there's a magazine with Soldier of Fortune, and it's got my picture all over it and my name. I'm like, guys are looking at me going, this magazine. And they go, I don't know who that is. Because I use a different name, right? I don't know who that guy is. But yeah, it's a small world, man. It keeps getting smaller and smaller.
Did you ever have to like dress up in like crazy disguises like Billy did?
Yeah, actually, I've got pictures where I've actually dressed up like Al Qaeda, done some ops. Had to do one op in particular where we knew a guy had a briefcase with hard drives in it, bunch of passports, black book full of phone numbers. Apparently, he had everything in there, the golden egg. He had all that we would need to take down Al Qaeda, right? And he was traveling from one place to another. And then he's going to stop off in this little village. And so we had intel that he was going to be there on this particular night. He was going to stay there overnight. Then he was going to move on to his final objective. So what we decided to do is, okay, we'll interdict him. So when we went there, it's about a 5-hour drive. And we had to go into the outer parts of the city, right? So it's a pretty shitty place, but as an American, you'll definitely stand out, and that'll raise a lot of alarms, right? So, but I got to go with my guys because I'm the only American, right? And these are my guys, and so they fit in because they look like them, but I don't. So I hodged up. I looked like a terrorist, and yeah, and we went in and. We got to the compound. We kicked in the doors. He was not there, but we did find the suitcase or the briefcase, and so I inventoried it right away. Yeah, there's all kinds of passports, black books, hard drives. Okay, it's all there. Poo, 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 poo. It's actually like a leather satchel is what it was, not so much a briefcase. It had outer pockets on it, and so I put everything back. And I said, let's go. We jump in the cars, we take off. And then that night, so we had our guys stay somewhere else, but we stayed at maybe I shouldn't say this, but we stayed at a military base. Let me put it that way, right?
Okay.
Not American, but we stayed at a military base. And in that, they had their version of the CIA inside of it. They had an office, right? And they only had one guy there, their case officer, the chief of base. So we've already coordinated with him earlier that we would stay there overnight, and the next morning we'd land a helicopter and we'd hand this briefcase off and it would fly down to, the Capitol. And so he agreed to let us stay there. And so after we get settled in, he's like, hey, you guys want to go eat some German food? German food? He goes, yeah, right down the street. A guy came back from Germany, opened up a German restaurant. It's really nice, How fucking nice can it be? It's, everything's made out of mud here, right? He said, oh, it's great. So I said, okay, let's go, guys. You want to go eat? So we secured everything. And he told us not to bring our guns. I go, no. We don't go nowhere without guns, right? Because this is Indian country. We know that. So we're going, he goes, they won't mess with you. I said, who's they? And he's referring to Al-Qaeda. I said, why won't they mess with you? Basically what they had done is struck a deal with them. Said, we won't mess with you if you don't mess with us. That was the deal, right? I said, that's how you guys are surviving up here because you guys aren't doing nothing. I know they weren't doing nothing, right? So I told my guys, I said, we can't go without guns. We're taking guns. If nothing else, carry a handgun. Mm-hmm. I said, moreover, secure all sensitive items. Like, for example, any crypto we have is coming with us, right? So you don't leave that behind. And we ended up leaving the brown bag, in another rucksack inside in a corner area, right? We thought it was going to be secure. Their CIA office inside a military encampment. Doors will be locked. He assures us nothing will happen. Okay. Well, we go eat, had a good dinner, walk back, check, oh yeah, all our stuff's there. Oh yeah, brown bag's there. Okay, we're good. Next day, helicopter shows up. We take the brown bag out. We drop it off. It flies south. Now we got to drive back. So it's going to take us another day to drive back. We get back, and then the next day we go, me and one of the case officers, we go to the embassy, and we're excited, right? We want to know, what do we get, And we asked one of the chiefs there, so what'd you find out? He goes, nothing. I go, what do you mean nothing? He goes, yeah, there's nothing in the bag. I go, what? He goes, there's nothing in the bag. That make no sense. I know there's all kinds of stuff in the bag. Mm-hmm. Not in the bag. I looked at the other guy, and he looked at me, and I'm like, so we didn't say nothing, right? We're thinking, the Germans just screw us, right? So maybe when we were out eating dinner, they came in and took all the stuff out of the brown bag and maybe erased it or replaced it or just took it out, right? We don't know. So we're like, damn. Did we just get screwed here, right? So we didn't want to say nothing yet, right? So we go back and do we inspect all the vehicles, make sure we didn't somehow drop it in a vehicle or something, right? Which I know we didn't, but we did. I had to double check. Like, damn, it was in the brown bag. So I go back and I insist. I said, dude, it's in the brown bag. No, there's nothing in the brown bag. So just drop it. I said, okay, I'm going to drop it. So I drop it. About a month later, I come back and I'm with the other guy. And I said, bro, you sure there was nothing in that brown bag? He goes, I'm positive. I go, who's got the brown bag? He goes, we gave it to the FBI. I said, can we go up to their office? He goes, yeah. So we go up there, find the FBI guy. I said, where's that brown satchel at? It's laying in the corner, just laying in the corner on the floor. Oh yeah, that one right there. There's nothing in it. So let me see. He hands it to me. I open it up. In all the side pockets, there's everything in there I said was in there. It's like, did you not even look?
Good Lord.
Now this intel is at least 30 days old. It's useless.
Wow.
It's compromised. They have to change all the phone numbers and everything. Right? That's the kind of weird shit,
That's so crazy.
Now, sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes people are lazy, I don't know, man. I was just like scratching my head going, how is it even possible? Because we might have just found the golden egg to win the whole war, in the whole war, right? So, and now it's just laying in the corner there. And the guy didn't even bother checking the pockets. It was all, I knew it was all, and I wasn't going crazy, right? I mean, the other guys starting to doubt each other. I'm like, damn, dude, this could get you into serious trouble, especially you're the boss, right?
Right.
And so, and he's like
Jesus.
sweating bullets, like, man, what do we do? You know? And I was like,
Insane.
I don't know. What do we do? You know, we did all we could do. So,
Hold that thought. I got to take a leak real quick.
Yeah.
We'll
Go
be
for
right
it.
back.
dude said, I've worked with this guy, John Cullen.
Yeah.
Holy shit, this guy's a hound dog, man. And this is probably why he's gone. I don't know where he's at.
Who is he?
His name's John Cullen.
What is he? What is his?
He's a investigative journalist. He's actually pretty famous. He's testified in front of Congress. I can tell you some of the stuff that he's done, and like the Butler assassination attempt. That was two snipers, not one.
What?
Nobody's talking about that, right? Even the Secret Service said it. Why are they not talking about it? Yeah, I can tell you Las Vegas. There's Las Vegas shooting. I can tell you about that one. I've sat down with it. We've gone through this, and he's got all the evidence. He's much smarter than I am on it. And he brought me on board to kind of vet some of the stuff. And so I bring my tactical knowledge, my strategic knowledge to play. And dude,
Did you ever talk to any of the dudes that were there at Butler? Any of the snipers?
No, no. That's an interesting story.
And it's so weird that Trump has not talked about it at all.
Well, there's a reason why. See, there's a reason why.
Is there?
If you want to record this?
Yeah. Are we rolling? We're rolling.
Yeah. So on that particular one in the Butler assassination attempt. So here's what I believe has happened based on the investigation me and John Cullen did. And I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version, very brief. So it wasn't one sniper; it was two snipers. Okay. Now, why do we say that? Well, one, looking at the trajectories, the acoustics from the weapon systems, also even the Secret Service snipers. The second set said they were taking fire from another direction in a tree line. So they actually testified they're taking fire from over here while the other group was taking fire from the guy over on the rooftop. So they're actually getting it from two different angles.
Wait, he only shot at Trump, though, I thought. Bullets were only going towards Trump.
Well, yes and no. So, man, you have to watch the whole segment. So some of their bullets, the way they traveled, and literally were bouncing off their handrails on the bleachers. The trajectory was completely different from the guy that was shooting, what they thought was originally shooting, right? So here's the theory. And I think it's a pretty good one. I think it's pretty solid.
See if you can corroborate any of this stuff, Steve.
Yeah, you were asking why, why Trump hasn't done anything about it. So here's the theory. The theory is it was two snipers. And by the way, the one sniper, the kid, right? They never really identified who he is. There was no information about his home.
His history was completely washed.
There was no history. Parents, what happened, all that, right? But they do have cellular data tracking him to Washington, D.C., in and around the FBI building.
FBI safe house.
Right, stuff like that. But there's no record of this guy anywhere. He could be anybody. And that's actually what he was a John Doe.
Well, did you see any of this stuff that, I don't mean to interrupt, but Tucker Carlson did a whole thing on this where they basically dug up all kinds of stuff about this kid and posts that he was making on forums and stuff like this, like talking about like how to shoot guns or what type of guns, that he had videos of himself like with his guns, like practicing in his room and shit.
Yep.
But when this happened, the FBI report was there was nothing.
Right.
But now later, there's all this stuff coming out.
Right.
So if you're the FBI or the NSA, you would have known about this. Like this guy would have been a huge red flag.
Yeah. Well, so the theory is this. This kid was probably already dead, right? And they used him in name only. They probably went to his parents and said, listen, your kid's dead. We already know he's dead. He got hit by a car, whatever, right? We'll give you $10 million. We just want to use his name. And we'll give you hide your identity, blah, 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 blah. The theory is it was two snipers. And ready for this? They're Ukrainian snipers. Now, why would they be Ukrainian snipers?
What?
Yeah, why would they be?
There was a dead body though.
Yeah, but that was just a patsy, right? So the theory is at that time, this was when the elections was starting to happen. The theory was Biden told Zelensky, listen, man, you're probably going to lose all this funding, all this crap if Trump wins. He goes, if you just happen to send a couple guys over to our country and it just happened to shoot him, who knows? We're not going to talk about it. The theory is it was 2 snipers. We know it was 2 snipers, and the theory is it was 2 Ukrainians, or 1 Ukrainian and the kid that was the patsy, because you can't find anything on this kid anymore, anywhere. Not even his parents, his home, nothing. He just disappeared. The other guy, we don't know where he's at either. But the Secret Service actually testified in front of Congress that they're taking fire from 2 angles. John Cullen went to Congress.
Find that.
Yeah, John Cullen went to Congress and testified the same thing. And they're like, yeah, okay, that's nice. You can leave now. So they blew that whole thing off. Now, again, that it's on another podcast. I don't mean to promote another podcast, but it was me and John was on it, and we spent about 2 hours just on that. He did most of the analysis, right? He provided everything, the angles, what do you call it, the sonic analysis from the muzzle blast and the distances and on and on and on. And there was just a lot of holes in this story that made absolutely zero sense. Like, where were the drones?
And how the fuck did they miss?
Right. Exactly. There's so much going on here, right? So that's just one example of, when we talk about these conspiracy theories. Another good one was...
So wait, okay. So if it was first of all, find that Congress, the Secret Service saying that there was 2 shooters.
John Cullen is his name. He would be the journalist involved in that.
And why is Trump not talking about it?
Well, because they think Trump has now leverage on Zelensky. Says, you do the things my way or it's all blows up in your face, right? So that's when he also came on board and said, hey, we want the mineral rights to this, this part of Ukraine.
Yeah.
And he tried to do all that. We think that was, the theory is that's what he was trying to leverage. Like, hey, we want, just like Greenland and Venezuela, we want to be able to occupy this area and reap the benefits of the minerals. Another good one, again, like I said, this guy, John Cullen, man, every time we got done with the show, we would both say, listen, man, we are not suicidal. We don't intend to die. We don't want to die. We like life, right? And we would say that jokingly, but I also know we kind of really meant it, especially John, because you can't find John anywhere. He's got no phone number to call. If you want to reach him, you got to send him an email on Proton. He'll contact you and do a Zoom call with you. All right. The guy's very reclusive. He hides because he's scared to death for his life. And once you start listening to this guy, you start to realize, wow, he's not an idiot. He's actually pretty smart and he's pretty good at what he does. Another good one was the Las Vegas shooting. Now everybody just thinks some 50-year-old or 60-year-old dude went up and with a gun and a bunch of bullets to kill a bunch of people, right? That's not actually what happened. I don't think that guy shot anybody. In fact, when he checked into the hotel, why is nobody talking about this part? He checked in with 3 women, Middle Eastern women. Right? Why? And where did they go? They went to the room with him. All right? Moreover, we have eyewitnesses says that shots were being fired from a helicopter.
Yeah.
Right? But if you look at, I forget what it's called now, but there was no aircraft in the air in that area at that time. But that particular helicopter turned off its transponders. And where did that helicopter come from?
Right.
So it's a little bird. Where'd that come from? Arizona. I think it was, who is it, Boeing that's down there? Anyways, they had something like 12 Saudi pilots training on those helicopters down there at that time. Right? And suddenly, a very similar bird, a little bird, with a people pod on it, was hovering and was shooting. Eyewitnesses saw it. And my question was, I said, John.
Dan Bilzerian talked about this because he was there on the ground.
Yeah. And well,
shooting straight down.
Well, at an angle, because here's why. Because I asked John, I said, okay, if the helicopter was hovering and shooting, it was probably drifting as he was shooting. I said, was there brass found on the ground? And he goes, yes. Several blocks in the parking lots had brass, expended brass laying on the ground. And there's cops out there with their bare hands picking it up and putting it in plastic bags. We got video of it all. Now, how did the brass get all the way over there from this building? Moreover, the window that he shot from allegedly that night was not broken. The one that was broken was next to the one where they found his body. Like, okay, this is making no sense.
In another room?
In another room, right? And so then they had, the one room had a small hole in it. The glass had a small hole in it. And they found, I believe it was 308 spent brass cartridges. And in theory, there were 2 rounds were fired. 2 rounds were fired and hit a fuel tank at the airfield at Las Vegas Airport. So they shot at it with armor-piercing incendiary, and they hit the top of it. And it actually has the black scratch marks where it actually made impact. So 2 rounds actually hit, but they had 8 pieces of brass in there. So the theory is they were trying to create a diversion by shooting those fuel tanks. Now, why would you do all this stuff to kill 50 people on the ground? Because the 50 people on the ground were just a diversion. You know why? Because guess who was staying in the hotel at the same time?
MBS.
MBS was staying there. All right? Staying upstairs. Now,
was it the same hotel?
yeah. So check this out. This is the craziest part. So the 3 girls were, what do you call it? Saudi, it's a GIS? The Intel.
Right.
Honeypots.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Probably ex-honeypots. But anyways, they're checking in with him in the hotel, but nobody's talking about that, right? Then they got the 8 rounds of brass in the other room. The room he's dead in, there's no broken glass. The next day when they come back up to do the forensics, all of a sudden the glass is broken that he was laying in. Who broke the glass now? It wasn't broken in the morning because that night they actually have video of the room that he's supposedly in, and the glass is not broken.
Really?
Right? There's more. There's so much more to this whole thing. So here's the other thing. So MBS, his bodyguards were like, we got to roll. Right? They rolled out the back in the vehicle, and his vehicle shot up. And it's nowhere in the line of fire of the helicopter. It's got another building between us. There was a firefight over on the airport, on the airfield, a small one. And they got infrared video, FLIR footage of 5 packs with weapons crossing the airfield. And they saw people get into a private jet and then take off. So none of this is in the news, by the way.
Of
right?
course not.
Even the news, the cops said, yeah, there were no AK-47s. It was just AR-15 with a bump stock. And I'm looking at the video, go, well, that's an AK-47S with a collapsible stock laying right there, leaning up against that chair. How you come here telling me there's no AK? That's why I was on the show. Because I pointed shit out like that. They said there's no AK-47. I said, there's one right there. Mm-hmm. Then they found an entire suitcase full of 30 and 40 round AK-47 magazines loaded in another room. What are those there for? And it gets crazier because later on, they have cops on the back side of the hotel, about a block away. They see somebody coming down a zip line from the back of the hotel. From the hotel window down the back, coming down a zip line into the parking lot.
What?
Yeah. Think about that. And the cops are going, well, wonder what that's all about. Wonder what they're doing. They didn't even investigate. They just see some people sliding down a zip line. Is that the 3 chicks trying to make an escape? I don't know. There's so much to this story. Like I said, this was a 3-hour podcast, and the evidence was just mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. The number of people getting shot. So he only had 1,104 rounds is what he had all total. Mm-hmm. And they had, of course, 50 KIAs and lots of people wounded, blah, 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 blah. But there was another weird anomaly. About 22 people had gunshot wounds to the head, like 22 caliber from a horizontal shot, and some were on a fucking roof.
Horizontal?
Yeah. It's like somebody, boom, took those kind of shots. Man, I wish I could get a hold of John again because, it's out there. This whole podcast is out there. But yeah, nobody was talking about any of this. They just made it sound like some crazy 62-year-old white guy just got up there and started shooting fish in a bowl, right? And that's
so
not
what was the
happened.
story? Somebody was trying to get MBS?
They were trying to get MBS.
Who?
The Saudis. So why would they? Because they've been trying to take him out for a long time because he's actually more pro-Western and he's a little bit more commonsensical, right? So for whatever reason they want, because right after that, 30 days later, he went back and I believe he arrested over 200 people, all tied to this. And that guy Khashoggi.
In Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. That guy Khashoggi.
Yeah.
That guy's involved in this as well. To what degree, I don't know, but there's a reason they took him out because they believe that probably he was an enabler for this whole operation as well. So it starts getting really deep, but 200 people were arrested when he got back to Saudi Arabia after that, within 30 days. But yeah, it's just the video footage alone speaks volumes. Like,
Jesus.
this guy's laying right there. There's no hole, no broken glass anywhere in this room. It's in the other room, right? So now Charlie Kirk. You know, everybody's wondering about Charlie Kirk. Everybody's got a theory on Charlie Kirk. So
yeah, well, there's so many people. There's so many like ex-military dudes talking about how like there's no way that round from that matches that gun, and if it's a 30-06, the entry wound in the neck, there would have absolutely been an exit wound.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So here's the theory. Again, this is what me and John kind of discussed. Is all right. So they're saying that shot was from 143 yards or something like that, right?
Yeah.
All right, 143 yards. Again, we've got the acoustics from two different camera systems that were on the left and right side of Charlie Kirk facing the audience, right? Mm-hmm. Based on the acoustics, right? The acoustics said that shot came from 74 yards and not 143 yards to his front. So when you do the intersection, it shows that 74 yards, not out here at 143, right? It actually in front of some trees, not from the trees, but in front of the trees. Mm-hmm. All right. They say there were no drones, but we have video of drones, and actually there's a video of a drone flying right in front of Charlie Kirk, away and upward at the same time the shots fired.
Really?
Yeah. And so we looked at the drone, and what we found was there's a particular drone out there. It's got kind of like a hull shape to it. It's about that big. And you can weaponize drones now. You can.
Sure.
Easy peasy, right? And not only that, you can install AI, so facial recognition. It will 100% pick your face out of 1,000 people every time, right? At different distances. And here's what the theory is. The theory is that drone was armed, had facial recognition in it because you could see it. So if I'm Charlie Kirk facing the audience, it flew over my head just like this, went just like that, and then the shot was taken. And it's out of the picture. It's so fast, right? We've actually seen it flying around a couple times in there. Now, here's the crazier part. So the U.S. government has two, they're like G5s, right? These fixed wing ISR birds. And apparently they're trying to sell them now. Wonder why. But anyways, these birds, they're ISR platforms, but they're also capable of delivering drones, right? So imagine a G5 jet that can deliver a drone, and I'm assuming recover a drone, right? So here's what happened. On that same particular day, before the shooting actually happened, one of those aircraft flew from somewhere up north, like, I don't know, maybe Idaho, flew south. It dropped from 14,000 feet to 200 feet AGL, right there around the university in Utah. Dropped to 200 feet, did a loop-de-loop, and then lifted back off, right? 20 minutes before Charlie Kirk was killed, that same aircraft was coming back, dropped down to 200 feet, did a loop-de-loop, and went back north, right? So again, John was able to get all the communications from the control towers at the time, and what they couched it as was a missed landing. Twice. Why? How's it a missed landing? You didn't land anyways. You just kept on flying, right? So, but that's how they framed it. It's a missed landing, a missed approach, right? And it took off. The theory is, again, this is me and John's theory. The theory is they delivered a drone, or maybe multiple drones. They came out. They probably landed somewhere and sat dormant until it was time to pull the trigger on it, right? And then they came back and recovered that drone and flew away with it. And so, I know that sounds like a far-fetched, but right now the acoustics are saying 74 yards, not 143. That would put it in front of him, in front of all the trees, right? We see the drone zip up, same time the shot happens, and you're right. A round from a 308, 30-06 is going to, at that range, is going to go through and through. Especially right, it's just going to keep on going.
There's no like freak chance that it could like divert, hit the spine, and go down like the other guy said it did?
No, that round, no, because you can see it's just a flesh wound, right? I mean, right here.
Yeah.
It didn't hit shit. And even if it went through a spine, most likely it's going to exit out the other side. That's a pretty fast bullet. That's about probably close to 3,000 feet per second. The other thing the question I have is, if you look at the backdrop, right, where he was sitting, there's no spalling there. There's no blood splatter. There's no fragmentation.
Right.
There's no bullet hole. There's nothing there.
No, there was even a camera angle released from behind him, and there was zero blood.
Nothing there, right? So that doesn't in and of itself doesn't prove anything, because maybe the angle it went off and maybe went into the dirt somewhere, nobody bothered looking for it. I don't know, but there's a lot of weirdness about this thing, especially the impact. On the backside, there's no impact. Nobody seemed to do an investigation for the bullet. Nobody actually talked about the bullet.
Right.
And then if you look at that weapon he had, you just don't take it apart like for example, an AR-15. Like take out two little bolts and fold it up. That takes a while to do. In fact, it usually takes a bench rest to break the nuts on it with a tool. So he's going to take time to do what? Break that down and put it in a backpack and then climb off the building and then reassemble it in the woods. None of that makes any sense. And so I'm of the theory that, and so is John, the kid was just, again, a patsy, because he was probably already selected a while ago, because there's something I didn't know. This was John explained it to me, and I guess you can Google it. I looked it up finally. They have what's called information reduction teams, right, in the Pentagon. There's like 60,000 of these people, and their job is to analyze certain areas and create potential scenarios and or patsies. And so in this case, they go, you know what, we got to kill Charlie Kirk at this place. Let's find a patsy, a guy that would fit this profile that we could do, and they do it. It's called information reduction teams. I didn't know that was such a thing, but apparently there is. You can Google that one too.
Information reduction teams.
Yeah, and apparently there's an army of these things, like 60,000 of them. I didn't hear about it until John brought it up to me. Mm-hmm. You got that right there?
Recent Pentagon efforts under the Department of War to cut staff and bureaucracy, notably slashing the Defense Technical Information Center workforce by 80%. In August 2025, to refocus on core data management and save money, alongside streamlining cybersecurity training and reorganizing innovation offices for mission focus.
It's just a staffing. It's just about staff.
Interesting.
I
don't know.
So it says it's about staffing and stuff.
I think that's just a cover. But again, I'm not the expert on that.
Well,
one.
I mean, the most obvious thing is like that gun, if it was a 30-06, it would have done way more damage than that. And also I heard people say that if there was a sniper, like a trained sniper that was going to do something like this, they wouldn't aim for the neck, or would they?
Well, just because they aim doesn't mean to hit what they're going to aim at, right? So maybe it was intended to be a headshot, pulled a little low into the right. There's so many variables.
There's also another theory floating around that it was the microphone was an explosive.
No, that's not. That's been debunked.
And do you know at all if he was wearing body armor? There are some people that say he was wearing a plate.
No, you would see it. His shirt was too tight. You would see if he was wearing any kind of a vest.
There was footage of him right before that where he's walking around and you can literally see his nipples poking through his shirt.
Yeah, he wasn't wearing a vest. It would be pretty obvious. A lot of weirdness on that one. But
who do you think was behind it?
Again, there's all these theories, but I think, again, honestly, I think somebody in the Jewish state took him out, because apparently there was a little rift before that, a couple of weeks earlier. And he decided he's not going to do that. He's not going to oblige these people that want him. They want to give him some ridiculous amount of money too, like $25 million for something. Mm-hmm. And he pushed back, right? Sticking to his principles.
Wanted to, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So look, it's always, man, like this thing with MBS, right? The Butler shooting. I mean, we can go on and on, right? All a lot of these conspiracy theories are starting to be true,
and it doesn't help when the government just doesn't come forth with the truth. Like, they conceal and hide the information, which enables all these conspiracy theories to just explode.
Absolutely. And when we have real evidence, like the Butler Creek thing, and we have real evidence in Las Vegas, and they're still not talking about it. They're just kind of dismissing it, right? Like,
did you find, Steve, the Congress testimony of the Secret Service saying that we know there was 2 shooters?
Well, I'll show you what I did find. So I found his testimony, but
not him. I'm talking about this, whatever the Secret Service said in front of Congress.
No.
Yeah.
There was no, and I looked and looked and looked and looked, and I couldn't find anything. Instead, I keep finding like this second shooter conspiracy. It's just, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I couldn't find it.
Yeah, John, like I said, John Cullen, man, he'd be a great guy to have on the show if I could ever find him, man. He is not like him, so that's why I'm a little concerned that something has happened.
How'd you meet this dude?
I actually met him through another guy. I don't know if you know Tommy Kerrigan from Tommy's podcast.
No.
Okay, well, Tommy has a lot of guys on it, man. He's got some big names, and he said, dude, you really need to be on the show with this guy. So I got to know John, and we did, I don't know how many shows we've done, 6 or 7 together. We were getting ready to do one on 9/11 and also on UAPs, extraterrestrials.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's got a lot of knowledge on that one, too. I have probably more on 9/11 than he does, but... you know, that's another one, right? It's an inside job, you know, the government did it, you know. I'm like, no.
Yeah, there's so many 9/11 conspiracies. It's just like...
Yeah, I'll tell you this, 9/11, airplanes did do it. Bad guys in airplanes did it. Now, did somebody else enable that? Now I'm starting to have second thoughts. I used to think, nah, bullshit. But now I'm starting to wonder a little bit. But I can answer just about everything, like, you know, Building 7 and... why did it collapse, blah, blah, blah. There's actually an explanation for everything. You know, when people talk about things like, you know, there was thermite. You know, we found thermite on the ground because they burnt. You know, no. Did you ever think that maybe there's thermite on the ground because when they first built the buildings, you know, with arc welders and stuff like, yeah, you're going to get thermite and residue on the ground. Of course you're going to get all that, right? That's what that came from. It's not because they used thermite to blow the buildings up. Yeah. It's impossible. I'll tell you that right now. It's impossible to blow up a building with one shot. When I say one shot, one explosive, right? Or set of explosives. Because you got to break the concrete first. Then you got to attack it again and break all the rebar and all the iron in it, right? That's 2 shots.
Right.
There's no room, there's no time to go in and set charges again. And it would take months, maybe years to build that, put that whole thing together under the nose of everybody. That didn't happen.
It is weird that there's all that footage, those interview footage of on the ground that day of all the firefighters saying that they heard explosions in the basement.
Well, that's from... Yeah, that's not from explosion because it didn't collapse from the basement. It collapsed from the top up.
Right.
Right. So if it blew up in the basement, the whole thing would just crumble. So that wasn't, I don't think that was explosion so much as it was probably like metal and things like that.
Right.
Being over torqued, you know, and cracking and ripping and popping and snapping and cables and things like that. But I can tell you right now that with my knowledge on explosives, which is quite extensive, you cannot. You can go in and place all the charges you want. You hit all the key pillars, right? You got to drill holes, big holes. You got to stem it, fill it up. You know, you got to run wire. How are you going to hide the wire? If you do it with remote control, then you got the problem with an errant signal setting off your charges before you want it to go off, right? So it's got to be something. It's got to be. Usually, it's going to be some type of manual control with firing wire or something like that. Non-electric systems, right? So you got to control and hide all that wire. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff you've got to rig up. Then you've got to paint it all up, clean it back up so the average observer doesn't realize something's off.
Well, there was a couple floors in the World Trade Center towers, and at least one of the towers that we know that was under construction for months before that. And that was like the floor was like cordoned off where no one could go up there. And people were saying they heard jackhammers and shit going on up there. Like,
yeah, but see, let's just say all that was true. Let's just say that, okay, they were going to put explosives. Here's the problem, right? If you understand how explosives work, and you put explosives, say, for example, on the concrete pillars themselves, all right? You can shatter the concrete, you can crush it, pulverize it, it breaks. But almost all concrete is reinforced with what?
Steel.
Rebar and steel, right? That's not going to break, all right? That takes a separate attack, and it's if you're going to use something thermal, that's going to take a long time, like a cutting system. That takes a long time, right, for it to cut through everything and weaken it. And you have to use multiple systems at one time. That's not going to work. If you're going to use explosives, and there's certain explosives you could use to cut steel, but it's not practical. For example, one that you could use, you could use, for example, C4 to some degree, but it'd take a lot. But it's things like JetAx, there's different systems, but even that takes a while to set up. And it's just impossible. There's no way it happened. What I think may have happened, though, is they did fly airplanes in there. But my question is, how did they do all this stuff under the nose of the federal government, all these people? How did they get away with it? Who coordinated that, right? And there's supposedly Mossad was on site in a van cheering and watching.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff that's going on here, right? So,
and why did all those government people sell all their American Airlines stocks a week before?
Right. So that's the part I agree is a little suspicious. The actual attack itself was done with airplanes, not explosives. It wasn't inside.
Clearly, right.
But it was definitely something's off on this.
It was a hologram.
Yeah, and so it's the same thing with Las Vegas, same thing with Charlie Kirk, same thing with Butler. It seems like everybody's just dismissing it, and it's like, okay, this case closed. Let's move on to the next thing. Like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
And why? Why are we doing this?
What do you think about the conspiracy theory that Osama bin Laden is still alive and they never really got him? I've heard that one so much lately.
I think they got him. What's the point of keeping him alive? Right? There's no value to that. No intel value. There's nothing. You can't leverage that.
Right.
You're just feeding this fucking guy in a cellar for what?
What was the story that they threw him off the ship or something?
Yeah.
For like a proper Muslim burial?
Well, you have to. So according to Islam, right, when a Muslim dies, you have to bury him within 24 hours, right? That's like, you got to do it. And so that was probably their deal. It's like, well, we're not going to bury him.
Don't they have to bring the guy back for like analysis, like DNA, to get some like confirmation that it was him? Do you know about any of this?
No. I would imagine they would do that. Maybe they took the samples already, but
maybe.
But I think the reason they dumped him in the ocean is because they didn't want anybody to go worship the guy after that, right? If they knew he had a grave. So I think that was probably the reason they did it. But I'm pretty sure he's dead. There's no value in keeping him around. But
right.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. But is the world a better place without him? Probably. But is it really making a difference? Not really. It just cost a lot of lives to get one dude, and then we didn't stop. We got the dude, but we're just gonna keep risking lives, right?
Yeah.
Strange times we live in, and
the future of warfare seems like it's going to be spooky, and it's going to keep getting spookier.
Yeah. Now with drones, I'm watching some of this footage in Ukraine, Russia. I'm like, Jesus, man, no escape. I had a guy I was coaching. So I do a lot of performance coaching, and this guy was actually from the Legion, but he was Irish. And he was like, because I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And finally one day he made the decision he's going to go to Ukraine, right, be a soldier. I said, okay. So he's not even there 30 days. And he comes back. I go, what happened? He goes, let me tell you. He goes, the first day I went out with 125 infantrymen, he goes, 5 of us came back. Everybody else died from drone attacks.
Oh my God.
I was like, what? Yeah. He said it was nuts. Said it was nuts. And the thing was, you would never even know you're in a war zone until you're out on the front line somewhere. Everybody else was just acting normal, And he said, but you go out and then you experience something like this more than once. He goes, there's no way I'll survive this. The money's not worth it. And he left within 30 days,
Good God. It's something you don't even hear anything about that war anymore in the news.
No.
Like they don't even talk about it anymore.
I mean, there's a lot of drone footage on Google. It's kind of weird. They're just putting it out there. People getting shot up and blown up, like not even censored anymore.
Diabolical.
And I'm watching this stuff with the drones, especially. And the problem with the drones now, they've gotten so good that they're using. They're using what do you call it? Fiber optic cables to fly them now, so that they don't jam.
So they can't jam them. Yeah.
But even now, they've got drones that you can load with AI, and they're autonomous.
Right.
And they just go to work.
Right.
And they know what to look for. And they kill it. That's just, even the U.S. Army now is issuing drones, personal drones, to all the soldiers. That's the wave of the future. Every soldier will go to the field with his own personal drone. You know what's really going to be cool? We were talking about this earlier on with AI and, the advancement of robots. One day, every soldier will have his own personal robot with him. I guarantee you that. Think about that for a minute. You see how accurate robots are now?
Yeah.
They're so precise in their movements, thinking, processing. Can you imagine? And even Elon Musk said that he thinks in 4 years? 4 years, maybe a little bit longer, robots will outnumber humans. And he said they'll be affordable. Like how much? $20,000?
Sure.
Right? And can you imagine a world where you have robots and you take one with you into combat? Hey, carry my shit. Hey, load my weapon. Give me a drink, and he's doing all the work for you. And even us, right? We'll be sitting here one day and you'll have your robot, I'll have mine, and he'll have his, and we get in an argument and let our robots fight it out.
We had this gentleman on a couple months back who was a scientist or a psychologist who worked for DARPA. And he was in charge of like the research and development stuff of all the new technology they were doing. Mm-hmm. And he was saying that they have helmets that they can, people on the battlefield can bring it with them, and say like somebody gets blown up or whatever, they can put this helmet on, and a surgeon sitting in Washington, D.C. can also put their helmet on, and he can like do all the work through this, like hijacked this guy's body to where now the guy on the other side of the world can be the surgeon because he's like hijacking his brain and doing the work for him.
It's, you know what, they've been working on that for a while. So look up the Gateway Process or Gateway Project from the CIA. It's actually been declassified. It's about a 20-page.
I've read it.
Oh, you had it, right? So they talk about, well, actually there's
astral projection type shit.
Well, that, and also I'm not sure if it was in this particular document, but they've done experiments already. So for example, maybe I'm on a computer on one side of the world, you're on a computer on the other side of the world. We hook up some, some wires in my fingers and my body and some to yours, and I can actually manipulate you on the other side of the planet by my movements in the computers and stuff like that, right? So they're already there. So that would make a lot of sense that they could do it surgery with a surgeon. Mm-hmm. That's why I said if you live another 5 years, you could easily live to be 150. And who knows, if you're around for another 20 years, maybe you can live forever because of this type of technology. See, it's not, they keep saying artificial intelligence, but I don't believe it's artificial. Mm-hmm. It's just intelligence. It's all it is, And what we have done, like I said, we've engineered our own extinction. Remember when the movie, with the Terminator came out and the Matrix, that all seemed like some futuristic mumbo jumbo, but here we are. We're living it. We're Skynet, here. Right? Freaking drones.
Yeah.
All this stuff, we're there, and how does this thing end? That's what I want to hang around for. I want to see how it ends. So give me my 150 years or whatever I'm allocated in my monthly, living allowance. I want to see what happens next.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the aliens to land.
They already did, man. They did a long time ago. I'm convinced that, no doubt in my mind. There seems to be enough evidence. Have you seen the booger ball?
Yeah.
Right. That's crazy.
That's insane. Is that the one that the missile hit it and then it came back and then?
No, it's the one that's from Colombia. Colombia, right? South America. They found it.
Oh, I'm not.
It's called the Booger Sphere, and it was back in March. They recovered it. So it's flying. They got video of it flying. It hits a power line. There it is, right there. And what? Yeah, there it is, Booger Sphere. Anyways, they've been. Some fucking dude talking. Yeah, they've been testing it, and
that's actually it right there.
Yeah. So when they found it, it weighed, I think, 8 pounds, and in the course of a couple months, all of a sudden it weighed 24 pounds. And I'm like, what happened there? It's not eating nothing.
Whoa. So what are they saying this is?
Well, so they don't know what it is. They finally were able to not really decipher the hieroglyphics that are on it, but they think it's Sanskrit, which goes way back. It's some type of symbology, but they haven't been able to interpret it yet. But
this is fake. This is not real.
It is. There's the AI scratches all over that.
Yeah, that one's fake. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the real one, because there's.
Can you find the real one? It's not. You're not going to find it on YouTube, bro. You're gonna have to Oh wait, is this a video?
That's
on it?
A video.
That's
of it right
totally
there.
AI, man.
That's the video right there. No, that's
not
actually
AI.
video.
That's CGI.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah.
There's one out there with them actually flying where it hits the power lines.
That sucks. This is CGI.
So you can find the real one.
But who Dr. Greer is?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's all over this thing. In fact, he's gone down and looked at it. There's quite a few people who are looking at it and examining it. They haven't been able to figure out what it is or how it even flies. They just know it gained weight on its own. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I'm going to keep looking. Maybe this. Metallic sphere.
That's
Booga,
wild.
Colombia. That looks real.
Yeah, I think most of this stuff is probably secret technology the Pentagon's doing, or the Pentagon, or aerospace contractors, especially the stuff that those fighter jet pilots were seeing.
Yeah,
because those fighter jet pilots, they aren't
No.
You know, they're pretty psychologically sound dudes. Those guys and the guys who are like running the nuclear sites, who claim to have those things that were hovering above the nuke sites, like Rendlesham, or not Rendlesham, but well, Rendlesham's one of them in the UK, but the one in like the Midwest.
Yeah.
And you know, saying that these big fucking objects, these big glowing objects were coming down, like landing and like shutting down all the nukes, or like in Russia arming them and then turning them off. Like, these guys aren't crazy people.
No. And, you know, I listen to Dr. Greer quite a bit as well on some of this stuff, but he thinks we've had this technology for about 80 years. We've actually reverse engineered some of this technology and are using it. Some of it's real, some of it's man-made. But my thing is, why not, right? So, you know, are we that, I don't know, man, are we that damn arrogant that we think we're the only people living in this universe? You know how big this universe is?
Right.
Holy smokes, man. I mean, 7 trillion plus galaxies that we know of. Surely there's other life out there. And then when we talk about different dimensions, you know, now science, physics come back saying, there's at least 11 different dimensions.
Yeah.
Some people can travel through them. When we dream at night, maybe that's what we're doing, is we're traveling to another dimension for a moment. You know, we talk about the Akashic records, the Anunnaki, the Book of Enoch.
Yeah.
You know, it talks about a lot of this stuff, but it's been left out of the canon. It doesn't meet the narrative.
Yeah.
I think there is alien life, and I think it's on this planet. What's it gonna do with us? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't want to do anything except maybe keep us from destroying ourselves. I don't know.
Right.
You know.
I had this guy James Fox on the show a couple days ago, and he's a lifelong UFO investigator and makes documentaries about this stuff. And he was recently in New York at a movie premiere for that new documentary that came out, Age of Disclosure, where they interviewed all those high-level military people and government folks talking about these declassified programs and the skiffs and, you know, all these recovered vehicles. And he was having a conversation at the bar with this top guy at the DIA. And he was asking him, he's like, you know, he said, how many people like have the big picture of what's really going on? And he was like, maybe like 10 people. 10 people worldwide really have the big picture. He was like, whoa. He's like, well, what about you? How many people know as much as you know? And this guy from the DIA is like, maybe 30. He's like, holy shit. And he was like, what do you make of the reports that have come out that said like there's something scary or something spooky about the reality of this stuff? He's like, I could see how it could be scary, how it could be threatening. He's like, what about it is scary? What about it scares you? And he goes, their intent. He's like, their intent? What the fuck does that mean?
It don't sound good, does it?
No.
Who knows, man? I mean,
but I mean, yeah. I mean, like there's biblical stories that line up with some of the modern events, like even the ones in the 90s of like that being in Varginha, Brazil, you know, that small being with the big head, the red eyes and the cloven feet and smelled like sulfur. That almost matches biblical accounts of demons perfectly. So like maybe these ancient people were seeing these things.
It sounds like it. I mean, you know, I mentioned the Book of Enoch a minute ago. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it was one of the books that was left out of the canon, right? Intentionally. In fact, the only canon that still has it is the Ethiopian Bibles.
Yeah.
Right? They're the only ones. But now they've been able to find more copies of it. But the Book of Enoch talks about alien life, talks about the archangels, it talks about the Nephilim, the giants. It talks about a lot of stuff that just doesn't seem to fit the narrative, right? And the narrative of the Bible, remember, was written by men.
Exactly.
Several hundred years after the death of Jesus Christ.
Right.
Now, look, I can't remember. We just talked about 2 hours ago verbatim. I really don't. So how the hell am I going to know what somebody else said 600 years ago and put it in a book?
Yeah. That's what you have to remember. Like Luke, John, Mark, these were dudes, human beings on this earth that were sitting down writing shit.
Yeah.
Right? And like some of the stuff they were writing seems just like so spectacular,
Right.
and so out there, you know?
Yeah.
Like you can either take it for what it's worth, that this was this dude, I mean, writing about things like the invisible becoming visible, and like gods and angels and unexplainable phenomena.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much in there in the Bible, particularly, that is contradictory.
Of course.
And I know a lot of people will lose their shit, if we start talking about it, because people will die to defend that, their belief systems, And, but, I'm constantly looking and analyzing and questioning stuff, and there's some dark stuff in the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament.
Yeah.
And it's right up there on par with the stuff you read in the Quran and other religious documents. But the part I find interesting is why did they leave out certain books? Actually, it was quite a few books, not just the Book of Enoch.
Yeah, a lot.
There's quite a few they left out, right? Because it just didn't sync up with the main narrative. So, when it comes to religion, it's a man-made dogma.
Yeah, it seems to be very focused on, from what I've read of it, it seems to be very centered around control.
Yeah.
Building a control system.
Absolutely. And so that's why I kind of dismiss it. I believe in a higher power. The Bible says one thing that's interesting is, and I think a lot of people miss this part, it says heaven and hell is within you. Mm-hmm. It's not like you go somewhere, there's a heaven, and you go somewhere, there's a hell. It's within you. I've always known that. I've always questioned it, even when I was younger. I was like, I think heaven and hell is within us, because there's nowhere, where do you go to be a part of that? And I think it's just part of our conscious. But sometimes the Bible is actually pretty accurate, but they didn't do a very good job explaining, like, for example, when they talk about the archangels, 200 angels came down from heaven. Okay, and these angels did what? Well, they were supposed to help humans, but then they fell in love with more women, and they started having sex with them. And they started creating giants. And then Noah said, screw that, we're going to drown everybody. We're going to wipe you all out and start all over, do a reset,
Yeah.
To your point, some of these stories sound really fantastic. I listened to, Neil deGrasse Tyson, remember?
Yeah.
Right? I don't particularly care about his politics. Sometimes I wish he'd just leave it out. But from the astrophysics side, I find it very interesting. And he made a good point one time, and it really made me think. So I believe it was, don't quote me on the date, I believe it was around 1755 in Lisbon, Portugal. There was a big earthquake, and churches collapsed with all the, everybody was in it, women and children and men, they all died. The earthquake happened, and then a little while later, a tsunami came in and literally wiped out the entire city of Lisbon, right? Killed everybody in it. And the question he posed was, if there's a God, either he's not all-knowing or he's not all-powerful, or both. Because if he was all-knowing, why would he let all these women and children die in a church praying to him, right? Why did he stop it if he's powerful? And the same thing with the tsunami. Why did he allow that? Or why did he, if he's powerful, why did he stop it? If he didn't know it was coming, then he's not all knowing, right? So it's like, made me think like, damn, man, he nailed it. It's like, if you're all powerful, all knowing, all omnipresent everywhere, then how's that slip by you? Are you really that good that you would let all these people die? Right? And then here's how they feel. It's kind of like what I think they call the God gap, well, God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
Well, if he works in mysterious ways, then why should I believe anything?
Right.
Right? Why should I believe anything? If it's a mystery, but you're telling me to put my faith into this person, right?
Sure. I think it just goes to, giving people meaning and performing and giving some sort of a structure to society. Because I think most believers, I think 90% of people that are Christians and they go to church, they probably don't read the Bible.
Yeah.
Right? They just kind of like, you go to church and then the preacher kind of like picks and chooses what things to communicate to you. And I'm sure it makes those people better in their lives. I'm sure it makes them happier. It fills some sort of gap in their lives, builds some sort of community. So I think there's a lot of positives that people can get from that kind of stuff. And it's just like, once you really dig into it, like get your boots on the ground of like some of like the hardcore texts that have been missing, even that are in there. and look at some of the stuff. It's just like, it's a whole nother world of like crazy shit that was happening back in antiquity that we're never going to be able to reconcile.
Yeah, like, enslavement was okay, raping a girl was okay, as long as all this weird stuff, right? It's like
weird stuff.
But you're right. It gives it's control. Some people want to control, and this is why it was actually politicians, religious leaders that got together and decided what goes into the Bible, the canon, right?
Yeah. Council of Nicaea,
right? So they did that. Now, I think if you follow science renders a better explanation for a higher power, right? So divine consciousness, call it whatever you want, universal intelligence. But I think in a lot of ways, when people are speaking religion, they're also speaking science, they're just using a different vernacular, a different language. For example, when we talk about the Holy Spirit, right? I was Catholic, growing up, talk about the Holy Spirit, and you have, the dear departed, lovely John is here with us in spirit. Why do we say that? Because we all intuitively know everything's energy, frequency, and vibration, right? So in science, spirit is actually frequency, vibration, energy. Mm-hmm. That's all that is, right? So the soul, the spirit, we're talking the same thing. And so I prefer to use different language to describe my belief in a higher power, like divine consciousness, universal intelligence. I believe we are all part of a collective consciousness. And that goes all the way back to Carl Jung in 1903. Yeah. He said we're all part of a collective consciousness, right? I believe that. I really do believe that. And I also believe that we are not really who we are as much as we are a consciousness experiencing the human condition, right? So almost like a simulation. I know that sounds really crazy, and for the intellectually impaired and small-minded people, that's a hard one to get their head around. But when you start doing the work and start looking at it, start thinking about it, it's like that could be very possible, right? Yeah, it explains a lot of things.
Yeah,
So I'll give you a good example is, how we're all collective consciousness, right? So, for example, my wife, who's sitting out there right now, she and I think a lot about the same thing. Just out of the blue, right? I could be driving down the road thinking, man, I sure would like to stop at Taco Bell and get a bean burrito. And all of a sudden my wife's like, hey, let's go start Taco Bell. They love Taco. My wife and son are Indonesian. They love Taco Bell. I turned them into Mexicans, I think. but yeah, like, let's go to Taco Bell. I'm like, how'd you know? I was thinking about that, right? But we do it all the time. And it's because it's what's called entrainment, right? So we start getting on the same frequencies.
Yeah.
The more we know people around the certain people, the same people, we start to think alike, and we start anticipating other people's reactions and actions and things like that. I'll give you a crazy story just to kind of drive this point home real quick. Is I was in a helicopter crash back in on Mother's Day in 1990, May of 1990, Darien Province in Panama. I was in the unit, went down to Black Hawk, lost the number one engine at 206 feet. Triple canopy jungle. First thing the pilots did was kill the fuel. We hit a tree, snapped the rotor blades off to the hubs, and we turned into a giant lawn dart flying through the jungle. No lift, right? And and I remember, the processing all this as it was happening, which was like super fast, right? But it did seem like it slowed down. And then the impact was just brutal, man. I ended up with a broken back. I was in a body cast for like 5 months, and it was a bad crash. Fortunately, everybody survived except for one guy. He almost passed. They resuscitated him about 4 or 5 times. He shattered his pelvis and was bleeding out. But anyways, so all this happened, right? Big deal. I ended up in Gorgas Army Hospital. Then I ended up at Fort Sam Houston. Then I finally ended up at Bragg Womack Army Hospital. I'm in a body cast. I've got convalescent leave. I go home to go see my mom because I got nothing else to do. I'm in a body cast. And I'm sitting in the living room with my mom and dad talking about the event. And after I get done, my mom's like, son, I was in the hospital too not too long ago. Now that surprised me because my mom is never sick. My mom is never in the hospital. My mom doesn't do any drugs, medicine, nothing. And now she's 82 years old, right? She's, hardcore German. She just got that hardcore German blood in her, man. And I'm like, what, Mom? What happened? And she goes, one day so she worked at Montgomery Ward's when Montgomery Ward's was still open in the furniture department for like 20 years, right? That was her thing. And she goes, I was just walking down the aisle, furniture department, and all of a sudden I got really lightheaded and just fell out and woke up in the hospital. And she goes, next thing you know, the doctor says, ma'am, we don't know why you passed out. All your tests are good. Nothing's wrong with you. You're free to leave, right? And I go, really? I said, where's your medical report? She pulls out, gives it to me. Now, I crashed on Mother's Day, May of 1990 at 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, okay? My mother passed out at 13:30 hours Pacific Standard Time on the same day, same time.
No way.
Exact same time. And I said, tell me what you felt, Mom. She goes, I just felt overwhelmed, like this rush. You know, she goes, I can't even explain it. Just then the lights went out. I woke up in the hospital. And you haven't been sick since then? She goes, no. And so that was my first account, right? So now fast forward. My dad had a heart attack. It didn't kill him. And he was good to go. And several years later, I'm in Lisbon, Portugal, walking around. I was there with my special forces team. We were doing what's called live environment training. We basically immersed ourselves. We lived in a society. We lived with Portuguese families. We learned the language, went to school every day. You know, it was a good time, right? And on Sundays, I made it a point for my team to link up downtown Lisbon. We'd pick a coffee shop or something, and we just did a team poop meeting, right? So I had stuff to put out because I'm still communicating with the rear and still Army guys, right? So I'm walking around Lisbon all day. I get up early in the morning, Sunday, got nothing to do. I'm window shopping and walking around, and I kept thinking about my father and the time he had that heart attack. It just kept popping in my head. Mm-hmm. No matter how hard I tried to keep it out of my head, it kept popping in my head. You know, I'm like, focus, Comstock, there's a hot chick, you know, look at that over there, you know, and boom, my dad pops up again. And by 1700 that afternoon, I met my team at the coffee shop. It was outside. We're sitting there and oriented, and then my captain shows up, Nick, and he's like, hey, Sergeant Comstock, did you talk to your wife? I go, no. He goes, your wife's been trying to call you. You need to call your wife. I said, no shit. So back then we didn't have cell phones. We had AT&T calling cards, right? So I go to a payphone, call my wife. She answered. I go, hey, what's going on? She goes, okay, don't panic. Everything's okay, but your dad had another heart attack. I said, how did I know that? I've been walking around all day thinking about this, all day long. Sure enough, he had another heart attack. It didn't kill him, right? And I've had this happen so many times, right? And why did I know that? Because biologically, I'm closer to my mom and dad. This entrainment I was talking about, this frequency, right? It is a thing. Some people call it ESP. Call it whatever you want. It is a sixth sense. Yeah. And we all have it. We know it. Mm-hmm. You know, we have, you know, the regular senses, the five senses. Then we have, actually we have more than six senses. The sixth sense is this intuition, this knowing. I don't know where it's coming from, but I know something because it is actually frequency, because we are tied into the quantum field through the pineal gland. And then there's the other one, it's called the etheric, right? So it extends out anywhere from 6 to 45 feet around us. And it's that field of energy around us, so that when somebody walks up behind you, they creep up on you and looking over your shoulder, you're like, how do I know you were there, right? Yeah. Because they break the polarity in your field, right? So we are a walking, talking sensory system.
Sure.
And we have the ability, I think, to know things even from a distance, from afar. I mean, how many times have you woken up in the morning and just had this sense of foreboding for no reason? Like something's just off.
Yeah. And
then later on in the day, something shitty really happens. Go, there it is. But that happened after the fact. Yeah. But I had the sense of foreboding all in the morning. That goes back to the notion of time. This time really exists. Yeah. And the theory is right now, no. Albert Einstein never believed time existed, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, you can reverse time, you forward time. Yeah. Time is just a thing, right? So, and now I think some studies just came out a couple of days ago where, you know, we talk about cause and effect. Now sometimes you get effect and they get cause, right? It's just, so the whole world of physics is like, you know, being upended right now because we're starting to learn things, right? Especially through AI. And so the world is probably not what we really think it is. So in that, there's some hope there for me, right? And should be for everybody else. So I believe we never die and we will never die. And here's why, right? So laws of thermodynamics, right? Energy cannot be created nor destroyed, it can only be transferred. Okay, so when you die, so your simple carbon-based matter, right, falls down, turns into worm food. But what happens to the energy from within that was in there? Where's it going? Where did it go? Right? Can't be destroyed. Where is it? It goes back into what? The quantum field, back into the ether. I believe that's the case. I believe it lives on. And I believe wholeheartedly now that we will always live, maybe not in body, but in spirit, right? So here we go again, spirit and mind. I think we will always live because we are part of this collective consciousness. I had a guy who was trained in, kind of a sad story, but it was actually two guys. One of them was a 28-year-old Jewish millionaire, right? Good looking guy, good smart guy, just a good dude, right? And his father wanted me to train him for almost 2 months on life skills, defensive skills, right? He said he's really smart, he's a good boy, he's got a lot of money, but he can't fight his way out of a paper bag. You know, he doesn't have the street smart. And so he asked me if I would train him. And then I had another guy came along, ready for this. He's a 28-year-old priest, and he wants to be a Green Beret. I go, that's funny, right? So I got both these guys in my course for 2 months, and so I put them both up together in Airbnb. I said, you guys just have to get along, you know, put all your religious bullshit to the side, just get along, right? And so it's teamwork. And but anyways, had a really good time training these guys for a couple months, and then they went apart, and I kept up with them. And then Robert, the Jewish kid, I lost contact with him for like almost a year. And I'm like, man, where's he at? He's not answering me anymore. So I call his dad up. Dad was a great guy. And over the phone, he explained to me that Robert was dead. I'm like, what? And this was the same time there was the whole thing in Israel happened with the Hamas, and was it October 7th? November?
Oh, that was around then?
Yeah, right. And he didn't want to tell me what happened, but he goes, you know, Robert, he's always trying to help the little guy, you know. And I'm thinking, man, don't tell me he went over there and just thought he was a badass, you know, or something happened. He's in Miami, you know. He said, I really don't want to talk about it right now. He goes, but next time you come into town, he goes, I'd like to sit down with you and my wife and we'll talk about it, right?
Yeah.
So actually it was last year, because I was on your show last year, right, around this time. Yeah, that's when I actually met him. So I went down to Miami. I said, hey, I'm in town with my daughter. I'm getting ready to leave, but I'd love to meet you guys. And we did. We had dinner. And a really nice couple, man. They were where were they from? Belarus? Very strong, like Russian accent to them. Pro-Trump, man, hardcore Trump lovers. Just really good people. And sitting across the table from me, we chit-chatted for a while. And finally I looked at him. I said, listen, I said, before I drive away today, I said, I really need to know what happened with Robert. I said, this is just going to drive me crazy. So Dad was like, okay, well, his dad was a medical doctor, and they were very wealthy. He's like, listen, he goes, my wife and I went to Paris. Robert stayed home while we were gone. And when we came back, we found him dead on the kitchen floor. And what happened was he had gone out. Let this be a cautionary note for everybody listening out there. So he went and bought quail eggs, right? And I guess he thought he was Johnny Rambo and thought it was okay just to eat raw quail eggs, right? And he bought them in the carton just like chicken eggs, and he was cracking them and eating them, right? He was a health nut, health enthusiast, you know. Now that he's had a little special Rambo training, he wanted to live the part, I guess. But it turns out, so the dad was like, what is going on here? What happened to him? And so his father did the work, looked into it, and it turns out that quails in the United States, some quails, depending on the region they live in, can eat, nightshade. It's a nightshade. It's one of the most poisonous plants we have in America, right? It's from the nightshade. And they can eat the seeds and it doesn't affect them, right? So apparently he got quail eggs that had all this toxin in there from this nightshade, right? He just got the bad batch. And that's what he ate. And what it does is it shuts your kidneys down within hours. Everything just starts shutting down. And he probably goes, man, I feel like crap. Maybe I got the flu, you know, and then went down the kitchen floor and it was all over, just like that.
Jesus.
Quail eggs, right? So, you know, boil your eggs, cook your eggs, right? I don't even know if that would have helped, but I didn't even know that either.
That's fucking nuts, dude.
I didn't know that either. I didn't even know that was possible, right? So I see it happen a lot in Indonesia. They eat a lot of quail eggs too, but I don't think they have a problem with nightshade.
No.
I forget which one it was, which nightshade it was, but I have to look it up. But it was like the deadliest one they have here in the U.S.
Wow.
You know? But anyways, I remember sitting at the table where I was going with the story was, I was telling him, you know, what we did with Robert, the training, you know, Robert wanted to be waterboarded and all this stuff, you know. She's like, did he really ask for that? I go, yeah, he asked for that. and so we kind of gave him, no pun intended, a watered down version of the waterboarding, right? And that didn't last very long. But he wanted experience. I said, well, you're paying, I guess, you know, we're playing. And I told my assistant, I said, we got to make sure we don't hurt him, right? So we'll give him the experience without the real experience. But anyways, so they were just like enamored by all the stories I'm telling them about their son. They're listening intently. And then when it was all over, it's like there was pregnant pause, and Mom was like, she goes, "Do you think I'll ever see my son again?" I was like, man, that's a tough question, right? And got my 16-year-old daughter with me. And, but I had the answer. I had the answer. And I looked at her, I go, "Yes, you will." I said, "We're all going to see Robert again." And you could see their eyes lighting up. See, they haven't had closure yet. That's what I realized at the table. There was no closure yet, right? I said, "Yeah, we're all going to see him." And I told him, I explained to him why. I said, because I said, we all are frequency, energy, spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it. We exist and we will continue to live on.
Yeah.
I said, "You're a medical doctor." I said, "This should resonate with you from a scientific perspective of it as well, because I gave an example of my wife. You met my wife now. Many years ago, we were laying in bed watching, what was that thing, Ghost, with Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze. Remember he gets killed?
I don't think I've seen this.
Oh yeah, so somebody murders him right in the alleyway, rob him, kill him, right? But he comes back as a ghost, right? And she can sense him, but she can't see him. But he can sense everything, right? And he's trying to talk to her, and she's like, "That's odd, that's weird," right? And I remember when we were laying there, my wife's like, "Do you think we'll ever see each other again when we die?" Right? And I looked at her and go, "Yes, we will." I said, "We will see each other again. Don't you worry about that."
Wow.
And she goes, "You know what? My wife is so innocent, man, so innocent, right?" She's like, "Well," she goes, "Promise me that when you see me out there, you say hello, okay?" And she was serious, and I almost started crying when she said that, because it was so innocent and so sincere. Like we're going to be floating around in space and, hey, I know you. We were married. That was kind of, and it just crushed my heart when she said that. I was like, man, when you're so innocent and so naive, and there's things you just don't know, and I told that to, Robert's mom, that story, and I said, "You know what? We will see each other again. Not like this. But our energies will interact, and we'll always." So for me, that's kind of, on a personal level, is very comforting, because I know that, like right now, my father's up there listening to me. He's watching me. Everybody I've ever lost in my life is still out there. And one day we will meet again. And it's not as simple as we're just going to go back into the earth and, turn into dust. It's more complex than that, and science is starting to prove it, with the whole metaphysics and quantum physics, and the stuff we're starting to learn today, and just the things I've personally experienced. I mean, creating your reality. I do it all the time. I think we may have talked about it last time, but I manifest a life that, just by my thoughts alone. And, I literally create money. I create opportunities. I create happiness, or I create sadness, just a function of how I think and not what I think. Most people don't know how to do that. And, if and school won't teach you how to do it, right? So if you think about it, school has never prepared you for adult life. It's never prepared you to be successful. It's trained you to be a slave to society. It's taught you how to stand in line, raise your hand, move when the bell rings, right? How much shit have you learned in school, high school, in elementary school, that really matters today? Like nothing. Like, why did I learn all this stuff about algebra and geometry when all I need to know is 1 + 1 and math, basic math to count my money, right? I'm not a physicist, but you learn so much bullshit. And it was done, again, it goes back to Rockefeller, right? With the general education system. He created this system that we all live in, and we've become slaves to it. I've decided to think way outside the box and look at what's really possible. And I've learned, as my wife has, that, you're your only limitation. You're your only limitation. What you think is what's going to you're going to become what you think, right? So, and I tell people you can become what you think, but how you think. And so,
totally, man.
If you think differently, and this is the problem with the whole world we live in, everybody's so linear in their mindset. They're so caught up in all the drama that doesn't even matter. They're so focused on, what Trump is doing, what the Democrats are doing, what they're doing, that nobody's focusing on themselves, going, how do I survive, not just survive, but thrive and be a better version of myself? And you can, because you can create that reality. I do it all the time,
Yeah, man, that's true. I tell my kids that all the time.
Yeah. Well, I've done it since my kids were little. You know, first thing I always tell my kids is you can't say I can't.
Right.
That ain't a word.
It becomes true.
No can't stuff, right?
Right.
2, I said you can be whatever you want to be if you want to be it, right? You just got to, and it's not even hard work. That's the other misnomer, right? But if you work hard, you can be whatever you want. And I will tell you, if you're working hard, you're doing it wrong. It's not about working hard. I use the term working smart, but even working smart is actually not it either. I mean, that is part of it, but if you have an imagination, you can create anything you want. You can have anything you want. You just have to believe it. It's imagination. And, when people ask me at Comstock, how did you do all these different things? When they first asked me that, before I started coaching about 8 years ago, I thought I was just keeping up with everybody else, right? And I didn't realize how much I had done. And then I started looking at it, and my daughter called me one day, my oldest daughter. Oh, good Lord, she's 41 years old. Can't believe that. But she's like, hey, Dad, you ought to try coaching this, that, and that, and I do it, and I follow a lot of guys, and you could do really well. And I wasn't really sure that was for me, but she kind of talked me into it. And when I started looking at it, and I was like, well, what am I going to talk about? Well, people want to know how you did all this stuff. That's when I started analyzing. I go, you know what? How did I do all that stuff? And then I realized what the secret sauce was. It wasn't lots of work or hard work. It was imagination. Everything I've created, I imagine it. I'm lazy. I know that sounds kind of stupid for a Delta operator, but I remember my team leader in the unit one time, he wanted us to move a bunch of shit, right? A bunch of equipment from the trucks up to the loft. He's like, hey, you guys, Comstock, get all these boxes up there, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, fuck, man, that's a long way to carry some heavy shit, right? And so I had a plan. I said, hey, guys, we're going to use this crane over here, this pallet. We're going to do this. We're going to put that on there. And my team leader was like, yeah, leave it up to a lazy guy to find the easy way to do it. And I said, you know what? I think I'll take that as a compliment.
That's funny, man.
But
that's good. That's true, man. That's a strong. That's a powerful message, and it's important for people to understand.
No, life is what you make out of it.
It is, man. Listen, man, this is a very positive way to wrap up this episode, and I want to thank you again for coming through and
appreciate it.
telling these incredible stories, bro. You're one of a kind.
Yeah, thank you.
And I hope we can do it again soon.
Yeah, anytime, man.
Tell people where they can find your stuff online, get in touch with you, all that.
Yeah, best place to find me is just go to my website, DaleComstock.com. You can also find me Official American Badass on Instagram. Easy to access there. I've got coaching programs, mentorship programs. Got several books out there. There you go. There's a screen up there. I actually published a new book. I meant to bring you one. I'll have to ship it to you.
Oh, hell yeah.
It hasn't come in yet, but it's called Running the Razor's Edge. And it's about my exploits in Yemen.
Yemen.
Yeah. And it's what happened there, how it happened. And, but really, it's more about leadership and more about the human condition than anything else. Mm-hmm. But you can pick that up on Amazon. So there's that. And then what else? I don't know. I just do a lot of stuff. Stem cells. Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Have we talked about stem cells?
We did. We talked about it last time.
Dude, yeah. That's the bomb, man. I've been doing it for a year and a half. And, anybody that's listening to me out here right now, you contact me personally, I will get you 100 million stem cells, 3 trillion exosomes for $7,000. No, and it's all telemedicine, home delivery. We'll even send a nurse to your house to give it to you. It don't get no better than that. Shrek McVie went and spent 20-something thousand bucks at wherever the hell he went. Yeah. Don't waste your money. Come to me. We're FDA approved, and it's
awesome.
Yeah.
We'll link it all below. Thanks again, man.
All right.
Everybody, you know what? You find the links down below. Get a hold of Dale. Get the stem cells. I can't thank you enough, man.
Yeah.
You're a national treasure, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Yeah. Just hope I don't get killed.
Good night, everybody.